As I know that I've started an episode in the past, ladies and gentlemen, rain, sleet, snow, hail, torrential downpour, nothing will stop us from producing an episode on a now weekly Saturday basis, as we have a set schedule now. It's not flippy floppy like it was in the beginnings of this pod. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. You guys already know it's a Saturday. It's time for us to do some NFL preview. It's time for us to get ready to pick games, all that jazz. We're here to do everything because, as you guys know, the Sports Agents of Chaos tagline is us having fun, talking football, and spreading chaos. And as always, I am joined by the perfect trio, and yes, I'm including the deer in that trio of cohorts to join me in the chaos. Of course, Iceman Jerk starting things off. Joining me, he doesn't have the Wi-Fi issues this time, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we have some Wi-Fi issues that we've started with in the pre-show. And this is a man who knows very much about that. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Zucker. Justin, how does it feel good to not be having the Wi-Fi issues this time around?
You know, I've waited for the day where it wasn't me. And it's sweet, Jerk. It's sweet.
It's sweet. It's sweet. I mean, to be fair, I'm one to talk because I have plenty of those Wi-Fi issues when it came way back to our 3-round mock draft that literally knocked me out of the stream for a bit, which was I thought was a bigger catastrophe than what it was. Thankfully, the show kept going. Speaking of keeping the show going, we, along with Wi-Fi issues, we have some tech issues. A iPad is not going to be delivered on time. So this week, in one screen, you get 2 for the price of 1, ladies and gentlemen. The Podfather himself is with his both friend and enemy, I guess frenemy in this case, the way it goes sometimes. Rick is there with Sandoval at the bottom of your screen, ladies and gentlemen. Rick, if you can speak and hear us, how you doing? Did his Wi-Fi crap out already?
I don't want to talk right now, guys. This is the worst thing ever. This is the absolute worst thing ever. It's I don't know. And he's got an eye patch on, so yeah.
That's going to be the best thing. So apparently Sandoval, I mean, Rick hasn't said this, but I think just for the joke, Sandoval is going to wear a Halloween costume of sorts throughout the entire month of October, I guess. I don't know if that was the goal, Rick, or if that's just what ends up happening. But this week,
it was a thought. Yeah, it was a thought.
This week specifically, he is Nick Fury. Which, apropos, Rick, does he fit that description?
He's a damn deer. He doesn't fit any description of him being a damn deer. So,
Oh God. That's the best. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you guys know, as we always love to do, the weekly Sports Agents of Chaos Pick Challenge comes later on in the episode. The reason this episode is titled the way it is, because there was a lot of pain last week in terms of the predictions on this show. Woof to say. I mean, we're all in the double-digit points now, guys. There's some celebrating. No.
I mean,
grasping for straws.
No, not really. No. Yeah.
Is it even a big challenge, or is it just who am I going to curse this week?
You know what? I mean, we could rename it that the Sports Agents of Chaos Curse Challenge.
I mean, because our streaks, by the way, are built up upon our own picks. There's no team that we have a streak for, so there's that.
Very true. We are not undefeated on any team so far. We are not undefeated on any team so far, from what I could tell. Justin has a streak with the Denver Broncos, barely, I think. But
I didn't pick him this week.
Oh well, thank God. No streaks really to speak of when it comes to the pick challenge. All just pain. I'm sure.
Why hurt me like that, Justin?
I didn't make you pick him.
Yeah, I know. I picked Denver. It was 2 points. Whatever. I took it. So it worked.
Known after 2 weeks that it is not going to be anything but anxiety-inducing.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
All right. Fun, awkward, and just all discombobulated show intro aside, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of things. As you guys know, before we get to the pick challenge, which always is towards the end of the episode, we like to talk about Thursday Night Football, and I think we have a good bit to talk about, especially with this Thursday Night Football game and what happened, not even so much doing with the game itself, but other things happening beforehand. We also are going to recap the week, but before that, of course, we always need to have the fun. This is where the fun portion of it, like I said, fun, football, chaos. It goes in perfect order, ladies and gentlemen. With that being said, Justin, you are I guess you're the leader of fun, technically speaking, if we're going by the order of that. I mean, you run the games, my man. you run the games. So per usual, we're starting this with a fun set of games, starting as always with Justin's trivia. Justin, take it away.
Rick, I'm gonna need you to hold your hands up for this. I don't want to see that deer Googling. I know his hooves are not connected right now. So, all right. It'd be nice if I had a question open. Okay.
How's this? This better for you? How's that? Okay.
Perfect. We're 3 games in now, boys. Josh Allen is currently leading the league in passing, but he does not scratch the surface of history. I want to know who had the best 3-game start in terms of passing yards in NFL history.
Ooh, the best 3-game start. So you're saying to any season, like the best 3 consecutive games?
3 games, the most passing yards.
Okay. So, at least for me, Rick, my logic is you start thinking of the 5,000-yard passers. And immediately for me, at least, and I don't think this is a bad first guess, Peyton, his year in Denver, I wish I remembered what season it was. It was either 2012 or 2013, where he ends up throwing for 5,500 passing yards and 55 passing touchdowns. Like he breaking both of those records. I think if anyone's going to have a lot of yards through the first 3 games, it would probably be the guy that ended the season with 5,500 passing yards, I would assume. I'm just trying to remember the exact season of which that was, because I think it was year 2 in Denver. So,
well, it definitely wasn't his last year because
right?
No, he wasn't throwing a lot of yards when he was ducking. Yeah, exactly.
Right. I think I want to say I think it was year 2 because they made it to the Super Bowl. There was the year between the Super Bowl appearances, so that was year 3, and it definitely wasn't that. And then of course year 4, the last year, was that god awful year. So I'm pretty sure it was year 2. I'm just trying to remember the season. Was it 2013, Rick?
Oh man. Well, Luck was drafted when? 2011? 2010?
He was drafted I thought he was 2012 or
2012,
no?
I believe.
2012. So if Luck was first overall in 2012, then the 2012 season, that was Peyton's first year. It definitely wasn't that year.
Right. So then it probably would be 2013 by that logic would make a lot of sense then.
Right. So that would be my first guess. I think that's a pretty good one to use it on, and also to get things rolling. So my guess to that question, Justin, for the trivia this week of most passing yards to the first 3 games of any season, Peyton Manning, 2013 season.
That's a very good guess, Jared. No, he's not in my top 3.
Really? What?
Yeah.
Dang, he must have ended the season really well. He must have ended that season.
I think he had a really good first game, and then he was scoring so many touchdowns,
right,
that he might not have necessarily had the yards. And remember, their defense was nasty. They had a lot of takeaways that year.
Right.
So he might not have necessarily had to throw a lot of yards to score a lot of touchdowns.
Fair. I just remember that season. Maybe I'm misremembering the passing yards. I could have sworn the passing yards were way up there too on that season. Well, I'll check that after. I'll check that once the trivia is done. I don't want to be accused of cheating like a certain.
Okay, I'm bringing it up now. You got a guess for me, Rick?
So I don't think you're off, Jurg, on that 5,000-yard guess in a way, which leads me into a territory of either a Drew Brees or a Tom Brady. But if I recall, there was somebody else that I think did throw 5,000 yards in a season who might have had a good year, but I don't know. I can't remember what year it was. You know what? I feel like it was later. I feel like it was 2018. I'm going to go with Ben Roethlisberger 2018. Because I know he threw for over 5,000 yards in that season.
Right. I completely forgot he had a season like that at the end.
Yeah.
He is also not on my list.
Okay.
No Big Ben.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. So I assume we get 2 guesses each with the 2 guesses each.
That's fair.
All right. So no
Unless you
Peyton.
want to go top 3, and then I'll give you the 3 guesses each.
That's a. I mean, the way this tends to go, we tend to get 2 and 3 by chance, anyways, which is always funny. So we might still get that. We still have 2.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Sandoval's
That's
2
true.
guesses.
That's
we still have Sandoval's 2 guesses. So let's just stick with numero uno for now.
By the way, Peyton Manning had 955 yards in that 2013 season to start the year.
Dang, he's not top 3. Holy man!
Wow. In the top 2 or 3, Justin, just questioning. In the top 2 or 3, is there one name that appears on there twice?
Not that I see, but let's see here. No, I mean I don't see that.
Okay.
See, I keep thinking. So I keep going back to the 5,000-yard passers, and it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up none of them are somehow on the list. I don't think 07 Brady's on here because even though he got 5,000, I don't think he ever had a massive game that year of you know what I mean, Rick? Like I don't think he started that 07 perfect campaign with 400 plus yards in each game. At least I don't think he did, to memory.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that. See, but again, that's where I lean towards maybe a Drew Brees.
Right, he had so many seasons. So many seasons. He did the most 5,000-yard passing seasons by a player in their career.
Yeah,
it's not a bad shout. It is not a bad. Well, remember, Rick, a couple weeks ago, I almost said a couple years ago, a couple weeks ago, we did have a question about total yards by a team for a season, and the Saints were the answer.
That's true,
and it wouldn't surprise me if Drew Brees. I mean, it kind of would make sense. Yes, they had total yards from scrimmage. Maybe could Drew Brees be on there from that season? I think it was the 2012 season we said, right? Or was it 2011?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so,
11 because that was Sproles' first year.
Right.
So 11. Yeah.
Right. So I will go with 2011 Drew Brees, Justin. That is my second and final guess.
That is a very good guess. He is not on in the top 3.
Really?
Yes, correct.
Wow.
Really? Have we just been naming top 10 this entire time? We're not even close to top 3. That's wild.
Okay. I'll give you guys news. He is not. You have not named one of the top 3.
I mean, not surprising. That's
we gotta do that going in. Yeah.
The luck goes. That's just the way that this show goes sometimes.
Okay, so then let's think about this. It's got to be Tom Brady then, right?
I guess. Well, hold on, because an idea just popped in my head, Rick. I think it was so potentially. I mean, maybe he's in the top 10 and not top 3 still. But Cam Newton started his career with back-to-back 400-yard passing games, no? Because didn't he break the record for most yards in his first 2 career games? Passing, because he did throw the ball a lot early, and I think he got close to. It's just the third game is the one that's screwing me up because I don't know what he did in the third game, but the first 2 he was on, and I think Andrew Luck followed it next year.
Right, that could be 400, and then 90,
150.
Yeah. So that might not.
You guys want to know how many yards Drew Brees had in his first 3 games that season?
Sure,
1,108.
And he's not in the top 3. Oh,
not in the top 3.
Damn.
Wow.
Do you think Kurt Warner?
It's not the greatest 3-game stretch. It is the greatest 3 game stretch to start a season.
Right.
Right.
So these 5,000-yard
Right.
passers, it's not a bad idea to look through it, but it's also just about how you start. I mean, these guys could have had three great games to start a season and that didn't throw another passing yard the rest of the season. You know,
So what
it's
you're
not
saying?
necessarily a hint. I'm just saying that's what's going on. Rick feels like he got.
So
Don't take that as a hint, Rick, because you're not going to get it right if that's the case. I'm just saying, it doesn't matter what they did the rest of the season. They don't have to be great quarterbacks.
Of course. No, I mean that's.
Well, I mean, you have to be a good quarterback. You know what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah, of course. You have to be a good quarterback to have this thing. But you also have to have a good offense. So there's a few names that I have in my head that I'm bouncing around with here. Brady, obviously. Dan Marino, 1984, because for a while that was the passing yards record.
Yeah.
So that might be something. Jameis had a 5,000-yard season. You want to talk about a boom or bust type quarterback, and then Patty Mahomes.
Right.
So those are four definite good options there for shoot 'em up quarterback. Guns though. I don't know where I'm leaning.
Well, so we have your second and last guess, and we have two of Sandoval's. So we have 3 tries here.
Right. Let me lean towards the older guy. Justin, I'm going to lock in 1984 Dan Marino.
Oh, Rick, come on. Offense didn't pick up until the 2000s. No. Sorry, bud. He is not in my top 3.
Offense didn't pick up until the 2000s, but he was still the most prolific quarterback of the 80s.
Oh, I'm not
at 90s
putting down Dan Marino. I mean,
look, as Jets fans were allowed to put down Dan Marino, though.
I mean, just put down yourself for not drafting the guy. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair too.
Yeah.
Right.
No, Dan Marino is not in the top 3.
Is he in the top 10 at least?
I only have the top 3.
Oh wow, okay, never mind.
Oh boy, wow.
I thought I had the top 10, but that was
Sandoval is our only hope here.
Don't you Google
it. What's the deer telling you?
Leave it to bad Wi-Fi, right? And leave it to bad hurricanes and all that sort of fun shit, right? For Justin.
All of a sudden, you got bad Wi-Fi, and Sandoval's not confident anymore, huh? I see how it is.
He's also only got one eye, so that's. He lost the all-seeing eye in a bad game of poker in Baltimore. So.
Hey, I thought I put a no gambling policy when you guys were down there.
I didn't read that part of the contract to him, so that's on me.
We're gonna have to settle that off camera.
I mean, you're lucky I didn't gamble him off camera, so that could have been worse.
I mean that would have been a loss. Rick, I would have been forced to take drastic measures, like force you to do a show with a concussion one time. That would have had to been your punishment.
Yeah, I'll just go find. I'll go find Aaron Judge and tell him to body slam into a brick wall, and then we'll have a concussion. There you go.
I think you might have more than that concussion.
more than that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Talk to me. What do you got? Okay. He's conceding defeat in this.
He doesn't have 2 guesses.
He does, but he's prematurely. He's prematurely conceding defeat because he says game recognizes game, which he's giving you your fair play, your fair props, which I think.
Oh my God!
I think
it's not even a hard question.
You of all people.
This just proves to me that he's Googling everything.
He's not giving up yet. But he's conceding that this is a good question, to which he said, unlike your other ones, which were trash. So
everything is trash if you could just Google the answer.
I told you. He uses Lycos, not Google.
Oh my God.
It doesn't matter, Rick.
It does. It does. One's dial up with a little hamster wheel, and one's Google.
What is the damn deer's guesses?
Oh, sorry, Jurgen Antetokounmpo. Okay.
He's stalling to get that Wi-Fi working.
First guess for the deer is Tom Brady.
What year?
That's part of the question too, right? Year?
Yeah.
I mean, could have guessed random quarterbacks.
Okay. 2007, Tom Brady.
Close. It was 2011. Tom Brady had 1,327 passing yards to start a season.
So it was a Super Bowl year. Yeah, that makes sense.
And in second place, you'll never guess.
Wait. That was only Sandoval's first guess. So you gave us the answer before he'll get letting him guess again.
Well, he was half right.
You couldn't Google it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Couldn't Google it.
I mean, he got the player, so it's a half victory, technically.
Not really. Tom Brady, you
Partial
could have guessed
credit.
20 seasons in the league. You can't just guess the player.
We had been in the past, though, just guessing players. But that's not here nor there. All right,
yeah,
so second you said we'll never guess.
you'll never guess. It is the one, the only, the greatest offensive season in Jets history. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, God.
Ew.
1,230 yards.
Oh my God. When you said greatest season in Jets history, I was like, Glenn Foley threw for 1,000 yards. What? Ray Lucas?
And third, Justin.
And third was Kurt Warner in 2000. Started out with 1,221 yards.
Greatest show on turf, of course.
If I had one more guess, Kurt Warner would have been one of my guesses.
Greatest show on turf, of course. So,
Yep.
The irony in all this is Brady had that, went to a Super Bowl, and lost. Warner had that, went to a Super Bowl, and I think he lost that year because that was 2001.
Right.
Fitzpatrick had that and did nothing.
He didn't make the playoffs.
Nope.
That's wild. But Rick, the more noteworthy thing is finally Justin beats Sandoval. Justin has bested the deer.
Of course I beat Sandoval. He didn't have Google this time. I keep telling you, he didn't have any internet. Of course I beat him. This is just a coincidence?
You're putting him in the corner, Rick? Putting him in timeout?
Yeah, he said turn me away from that godforsaken Jimi Hendrix poster. I don't want to look at it anymore. Okay.
Oh man. Oh well, ladies and gentlemen, a show first here on the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. Justin has finally bested his rival. He has finally defeated him. David has taken down Goliath. Carthage actually beat Rome this time. Justin has defeated Sandoval.
Wow.
And just to be clear, the season for Ryan Fitzpatrick was not technically with the Jets. He had the greatest offensive Jets season ever, but he was not a Jet during the time. I want to clarify that before I make anyone upset when they go to
but again, Ryan Fitzpatrick still did nothing. He didn't make a Super Bowl at all.
No, he didn't even finish that season.
No, he didn't.
Really? Wow, that's wild.
Not.
That's crazy.
I believe he was hurt.
Actually, that is the Fitzpatrick experience right there.
I mean, then technically he did finish the season. He was just hurt. If you say he didn't finish the season, I think he died. Like, kind of different, you know?
Jesus Christ.
I mean,
Chris Henry is over the chat.
Oh my God. And on that note, NFL Would You Rather, ladies and gentlemen. Off the heels of a stunning victory where Justin has exercised his demons, this is more of an opinion based one now, but still pretty fun technically, depending on what we got. And we have two this week. So Justin, once again, take it away. What do we got this week for some Would You Rather fun?
All right. So 3 games into the season, and there's a lot of question marks surrounding a lot of teams. And I want to start with one of the better ones. Guys, who was more surprising as a 3-0 start? The Dolphins or the Eagles?
Dolphins or the Eagles?
Based upon results and based upon matchups, I think the Dolphins were more surprising because everybody had been saying for a while that Jalen Hurts was a good enough quarterback, but we didn't know that about Tua. at the moment. And then the way that Miami won convincingly in week 1, and then their comeback in week 2 against Baltimore, and then watching Buffalo cough up week 3 like they were Dallas at a Thanksgiving cocktail party or whatever was just miserable. So, and again, I mean, Philadelphia, for everything that they've had a relatively easier matchup. And yeah, they haven't had the wide receiver depth that I thought they were going to have, but they're clicking on all the right cylinders because Jalen Hurts is turning out to be a really good quarterback. So I think we expected them. And Justin, you at one point had them at 12-5 or whatever it was before I knocked you back to 11-6. But this team could be 13-4. They're a good, solid team, and even their defense. Even Slay, who's their corner, he's been phenomenal for them too. So it's a really good Philadelphia team. And I think that's expected more so than Miami doing what they did, coming back from 21 down against Baltimore to win in the fourth quarter of that game. And then the Buffalo game, yeah, sure, Buffalo didn't have a lot of defensive options, but they still eked it out and won. So that was, I think, more surprising. Obviously, they're not 3-0 anymore, but it was a really nice start for them. And it was something that I think we didn't expect this much to happen.
Right.
And I do want to say that you have to give credit to the GM in the Eagles organization. He did make a lot of work on that secondary. It's not just Darius Slay there anymore. They did sign Bradbury, I believe, after we made those predictions, and they traded for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's played very well for them. Their secondary has been lights out, even shutting down guys like Justin Jefferson. Really, they had a really, really good first 3 games. Jerg, which team do you think is better?
Oh, well, now it has to be the Eagles, considering what just happened in Miami recently. I think it would have been closer because for me, like part of what the thing is that the Dolphins are more surprising because, and granted, I know in week 2 their defense let up a lot, but their defense actually played better than what I expected the Dolphins team to play. We knew McDaniel would make the offensive difference for them. We knew what he could do with weapons. We knew that he was probably going to be better for Tua than what Brian Flores is, because for the unfairness of what happened to Brian Flores, there is one definitive thing we can say was fair about his tenure. He failed Tua. Let's be real here. He failed to put Tua in good positions to be able to succeed. Whereas the defense, he was on lock. With the coaching change, it was a flip of, McDaniel's going to be there for Tua. What's the defense going to look like? Kind of like what Rick said, on paper, it was an easier 3 games on the schedule for the Eagles even going in. And then when you see it play out, you see the 20-plus point comeback that they need to make against the Ravens, the way they easily handled the Patriots. Like, you have at least expected a closer game. Like, I mean, it was kind of close, but the Patriots just had nothing for them. And then in the game against the Bills, like that was the shock early win, which, again, considering how things have recently played out, which we're going to get to here in a few moments, that game is probably bigger than what we think in terms of, getting them in the win column with an extra win. With the situation they're in, a lot better to be 3-1 right now than 2-2 and lose your starting quarterback. So that's the surprise. Right now, definitely the Eagles are going to be better because their starting quarterback is healthy. Jalen Hurts is looking relatively well. I still think there's a little bit of work that he can do because as good as he has been to start, I think the weapons have made up a lot of it for him. And I think there's still some holes in his passing. Like, yes, the completion percentage has been high, but I think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith has still made him look pretty good. I need to see a little bit more from Jalen Hurts to prove to me that, like, he is going to be that, like, 17-game guy, But right now I have to give it to the Eagles for all intents and purposes because, like Rick said, big play Slay being the guy in that secondary, being, like, the leader on that defense, along with the defensive line of Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, the 2 veterans that have both been there, I think, for a decade plus now for the Eagles. That defense has a lot of heart. And I think that is one of those things we tend to underestimate when it comes to preseason predictions is how much heart these guys play with. And I've already said it earlier this week. I'll say it again. The Eagles, I give all the props in the world. They proved me wrong. Like my expectations weren't that high on them. They definitively proved me wrong. Like they are a very good team here. They really are.
Yeah, and listen, like the Eagles in the last, not counting the Detroit game in week 1, last 2 games, their defense has allowed 7.5 points per game. They allowed 7 to the Vikings and 8 to the Commanders. Like that's a good defense that if that holds, that's a defense that's going to win a title because that defense is just unmatched no matter who goes up against them.
And it's the skill position too. Like to me, the talent on the other end that they are holding down. They, like you said, Rick, they locked down Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen was a no-show against them. And then against the Washington Commanders, who, God, I regret that selection more and more with each passing day. It's McLaurin, it's Curtis Samuel, it's Jahan Dotson, who's been off to a great start in his rookie campaign. Like they are shutting down weapons. They're not shutting down teams that are putting out their fourth and fifth stringers as starters. No, they're taking the best of what other teams have had to offer, and they're shutting them down. Like that to me is more impressive. Granted, the quarterbacks are not that impressive. It's Kirk Cousins and Carson Wentz. But the fact that they're shutting down a team that has a top, whatever you want to put him at, wide receiver, top 8 receiver, top 5 receiver in the game in Justin Jefferson, and then a good all-around skill position group in Washington, I'm thoroughly impressed with the Eagles. I mean, you kind of said it, Rick, with what Justin's predictions were. I kind of have a little bit of a hot take where, and this could be an overreaction, but because the Packers are, like, the jury's still out on them. They have a weak schedule right now, but it's going to get tougher. Because the Buccaneers are looking kind of shaky right now. Because, God, what's the other division that I'm completely forgetting about? Oh, because, like, right now, at least the Rams are still kind of rebounding from what week 1 was. The Eagles could end up with the NFC number 1 seed at the end of the year. And that's actually a realistic possibility. And wouldn't have thought that before the season.
So this leads me to my side question here. Where do the Eagles rank among the best teams in the league?
Right now, like, easily top 3. Top 3, top 4 minimum. They have to. And
based upon the fact that they're the only unbeaten team, I go number 1.
Yeah.
Really?
Results matter. Results matter.
Results matter, but you
Absolutely.
have to take into account some of the schedules. I mean, you got teams like the Bucs and the Packers.
But again,
played each other. The Chiefs, the Bills played a really, really good Dolphins team. You know, a lot of these teams are still pretty good. Just because that they weren't 3-0 doesn't mean that they weren't a top team in the league.
But again, the jerk's point. Any of those other teams, Tampa, Green Bay, LA, they're all 2-1 in that conference. Were you impressed by any of their wins as much as you were by the Eagles? I'd say no.
It's true.
I mean, look at the 2-1 teams. Look at the 2-1 right. And look at the teams that have winning records in the AFC. You've got Baltimore, who coughed up a win to Miami. Miami, who was 3-0 going into Cincy. Buffalo, who coughed up the game to Miami. Ironic. Kansas City, who threw away a win. Could have been 3-0. And the Denver Broncos are 2-1 as well. And Jacksonville's 2-1. Results matter to me. And Philadelphia's got the best team so far and the best results. Clearly number 1 in my estimation.
I would just put top 3, top 4, because I think it's still, like, I don't like ranking teams within the first 3 to 4 games. I think it's all very subjective. I know, but just for purposes, like, like, for me, like, I always try to wait for every single season to at least get towards the halfway point. Like, Major League Baseball is so freaking long. I don't care about power rankings until we're at least like 70, 80 games in. Like, so football for me is kind of like, once we get close to like the trade deadline, that's when I start to make like the real. But like right now, if you want to have the Eagles at number 1, I can't disagree with you. Like, for me, I just like saying top 3 because I think there's a buffer. Because I still think overall talent wise, like, the Bills are still like the favorite in the AFC to me, and the Rams are still the defending Super Bowl champions for a reason. And while their wins haven't necessarily, I mean, the Bills did have the impressive Week 1 win, but while those teams since haven't been super impressive, I still think there is that pedigree there where we've kind of seen it from them the last 2 to 3 seasons. Whereas the Eagles, this is a one-time thing. And it's also, I think it's kind of worth mentioning. It's kind of worth mentioning when it comes to the Eagles. Again, from last season, super easy end to last season. They faced the Giants twice. They beat the Jets. They beat the Commanders / football team. Like, they had a very easy end to the season to get to the playoffs. This year, it's a little bit different. It's a bit harder of a schedule to start with. I still need to see a little bit more from them in that regard. I'm not going to hold it against them, but that's where I take a step back because those other 2 teams, like, I can definitively think if it's Rams-Eagles right now in the NFC Championship game, I'm still going to favor the Rams because, like, they have the pedigree of having been there. They have that pedigree.
Ooh. See, I don't know. I don't know about that. I really don't. But I will say this to end this question as we move on to the next one. You'll have a great chance to watch a matchup this week when it's Christian Kirk versus Darius Slay.
Oh, there we go.
Money.
Oh, man. Who would have thought that a Dolphins Eagles question, would you rather, would have taken that much time? So Justin, the next would
It
you
was
rather?
like a 4-question question. It was a lot. There was a lot in there.
Fair.
Okay. So, which team that started 1-2 is most likely to turn it around this week? Now, there's a lot of disappointing 1-2 teams out there. This is a big week for them. You can just easily turn around your season. It's a fresh start by going 2-2 and seeing what you could take on. I'm going to give you guys 2 teams, and you let me know who's more likely to turn it around. Is it going to be Rick's Lions against the Seattle Seahawks at home in Detroit, or is it going to be the Arizona Cardinals in Carolina at 4:05 p.m.?
So
this is brutal.
So here's the thing. I think technically speaking, both teams can and should win. But if I have to just pick one, I think it's kind of like, man, because I'm torn between it's Seattle that Detroit's facing, but also Kyler's really good. Like, oh man.
Well, look, listen, you got to think about the teams also. The Cardinals had 3 games that they weren't really in. They had a really big comeback in the fourth quarter of the second game against the Raiders, and they've played really good teams this year, the Cardinals. So, in the Chiefs, I guess maybe not the Raiders, which they came back. And who'd they play last week?
The Rams.
The Rams.
Which that's a team that's I think Sean McVay has had the Cardinals number ever since that Kyler's gotten there. Like I think they faced off in 8 games. I think he's definitely has an above 500 record against them.
And the Lions, they've also played very good teams. They've been in a lot of the games. They did try and almost mount that comeback against the Eagles week 1. They had a really solid win week 2 against Rick's Commanders. And week 3.
It's why I couldn't pick that game, man. It's why I couldn't pick that game.
And week 3, were seconds away from beating Minnesota before they were able to mount that last second comeback. So who do you think is going to be more likely to take that step forward this week and get themselves back to 500?
Well, look, I'll say it like this. Like I think for me, if Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift were in this game for Detroit, it would be a no-brainer. But they're not. And that's what really hurts me about it. Like, yeah, Arizona still doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins, but Kyler Murray versus Jared Goff, I think you take Kyler Murray in that regard. I mean, it's brutal. It's tough. The only thing that I'm not sure about, you said Arizona's going to Carolina, right?
I think, it's in Carolina.
Yeah. So that's the only thing that I'm not really happy about if I'm Arizona. I mean, yeah, they can win games on the road like that, but this is a West Coast team to win an East Coast road trip, and that seems to always give a little more problems. I think by virtue of that, I'm going to say Detroit has going to be 500 instead of Arizona, but I could see both teams doing it. It's just for me, Detroit's offense, I need to see more from those tertiary players. I need to see more from TJ Hawkinson this week and from whoever's going to be their running back this week. I need to see a lot more from those guys because, this is the game where, look, you're playing a cupcake team in Seattle. I don't care about Geno Smith's Ring of Honor status. I don't care about that. But you're playing a cupcake team in Seattle without Jamal Adams. So somebody's going to be open down the field. Find him, make a new star, or make a 1-week hero until you get Amon-Ra St. Brown back. So I'll take Detroit.
Yeah, fair. I mean, you ruined my joke. I was going to mention Geno Smith. I guess just for the sake of it, I'll go with the Cardinals because I think trusting Jared Goff to make guys into weapons, I don't like that prospect. I really don't. Whereas like Kyler, that offense has looked good in spurts. I think obviously, and also like I know people are praising the Panthers defense and credit too. Like J.C. Horn is great, Derek Brown on that defensive line is phenomenal. But you have to think that Kyler is going to be the most dynamic quarterback I think that Panthers defense has faced yet. It's going to be much different from what they have seen so far this season compared to everyone else. So I think, what's it called? My bad. I think that Kyler has a better chance of making his way because Hollywood Brown just had a pretty good game. Like even though they lost against the Rams, I think Hollywood Brown still had a pretty good game. Whereas he also has Zach Ertz. I don't trust Jared Goff to make weapons. I think Kyler can. So I'm just going to go with the Cardinals in that one if I had to pick one. And again, like the Lions not having their top 2 offensive weapons for me, like that's a big thing. Now, granted, it's the Seahawks, so maybe it may not make much of a difference, but it's also the competition. Baker has not looked good this season. He has not. Like, it's supposed to be his last chance saloon for him to try to look like a starting quarterback again. It's not looked good. And Geno Smith is a future Seattle Seahawks Ring of Honor, joinee. So between them, I got to go with the Cardinals in this one. Oh, lovely. So that just about does it. I believe that was the last of the Would You Rathers. As always, Justin, bring it. This is where the thought provoking comes in, ladies and gentlemen. It's where we have a little bit of fun, and it's the perfect transition because we still have some fun. Like we turned the Eagles Dolphins into a diatribe, but we slowly melt into the football. So let's go all in, boys, in the football talk, and let's go back into what was this past week in the NFL season, week 3.
Can we not and just skip ahead because this week was painful for all of us?
You know what? I very much want to. So to slightly honor that wish, we'll go fast. How about that? I think that's an equal compromise, Rick.
Fair. Very fair.
Very fair. Some games will get more time than others, to say the very least. So this is the interesting part, guys. And people will see in the description on like YouTube and Facebook if they haven't already. There were quite a few upsets this week. And one division in particular did a pretty good job at a couple of upsets in regards to that. The AFC South. 3 of the 4 teams in that division won this week. The one team that didn't was the Houston Texans. Just real quick on them, they lost 23-20 against the Chicago Bears on a last-second field goal by Cairo Santos to win. How are the Chicago Bears 2-1 when Justin Fields on the season, and I'll bring it up here, has thrown for 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions with a quarterback rating of 23.2? My God.
I have an answer for that. The football gods hate me and wanted my streak to end.
I'll accept it. It has been really, really ugly that I get the idea of winning ugly, but the Bears have taken that to a whole new level because there was the 49ers week 1 game that was that game was played in a monsoon. I think I was expecting Noah's Ark to pass by at some point during that game. That's how much rain there was on that field in and of itself. There was that. With the week 2, Packers on them, of course. And then week 3, I mean, the Houston Texans, that sucked because I really did want the Texans to win that one. So, I'm sorry, Davis Mills. Sorry, Houston, but just wasn't your week. But they were the lone loser. The other 3 teams here, boys, the Tennessee Titans, 24-22 win over the Las Vegas Raiders, getting the Titans to 1-2, Raiders to 0-3. The Titans at one point taking a 24-10 lead before 24-10 before the Raiders would end up scoring 12 points in a row and coming kind of close to the 2-point conversion. I say kind of because that was a terrible final play call for that 2-point conversion. It was bad. The Indianapolis Colts, by defying all logic with how terrible they looked, winning a 20-17 game against the Kansas City Chiefs.
I don't know if it was defying all logic. I mean, I clearly picked the Chiefs. Only logical that they would get wrecked.
So defying conventional logic, but making sense to the logic that has been our pick'em this season so far, and aka team screwing over Justin. 20-17 game.
Jerk, just to point this out, you're also jolly considering your hatred for the Titans, and they beat you as well.
Look, I'm seeing a specialist about the Titans stuff. I have been told that I need to be a little bit nicer to Tennessee. So I'm going to try to be better about it. I'm going to try to be a little bit better. They still suck, but I'm going to try to be a little bit better.
Hey,
20-17 win. A lot of errors by the Chiefs. The way that I described it personally was that this is the first Kansas City Chiefs game that I've seen in a while where the offense just looked like they didn't know what they were doing. Like Mahomes played fine, but he didn't play special. They had some special teams errors, of course, because Harrison Butker is out. But this was the first time in a while, personally, this is just personally, the offense just didn't look like it knew what it was going to do there. And I think that was the key for me as to why they lost that game. And then, of course, completing the thing was the absolute dog walking that the Jacksonville Jaguars did to the Los Angeles Chargers, 38-10. Clearly, Justin Herbert, the fact that he was even able to play in that game considering the rib issue, I mean, props to him, but that was a very ugly game to say the least. Trevor Lawrence torched that Los Angeles Chargers defense. So did Robinson for himself. He had 100 yards in that game. Zay Jones had a pretty good one. Again, they hung 38 points on the Chargers overall, but the biggest loss for the Chargers, of course, was the fact that they lost Rashawn Slater for the season, which just add insult to injury. Keenan Allen missed that game, I think. He's not playing. Rashawn Slater now out for the year. Justin Herbert cracked ribs. Mike Williams did absolutely nothing in that game. I think he had one catch for like 7 yards. And the running game has been atrocious with the Chargers this season. Sony Michel and Austin Eckler, two very good running backs, both averaging less than 3 yards per carry on the season so far. It is not looking good for the Chargers right now, but it was looking good for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who now lead the AFC South. Once again, defying all logic. Two-pronged question for both of you guys. I'll throw it to Justin first. Justin, which AFC South team kind of impressed you / needed their win the most with last week's final performances from them? And considering in those games, funny enough, we had a lot of AFC West teams involved in those games. Between the Raiders and the Chargers, which team is like left stinging and reeling more after their loss?
So that's a good question. Now, I will say the most impressive and the one that needed it the most are two different teams, because I think that the most impressive win was Jacksonville. I mean, they came in there, they imposed their will against what was supposed to be one of the top teams in the league this year. I know that they're suffering injuries. I know that they're having a tough time with guys missing, and now they're going to lose, a key contributor on their offensive line in Slater, which is not going to help an injured quarterback and a anemic run game. But still, I mean, Jacksonville came in, they put up 38 points. They had a great game. James Robinson ran all over that team. But the team that needed it the most was the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, talk about a real statement win. Don't count us out yet. We are still here. We still have a nasty defense. And guess what? Their best player isn't even back yet in Darius Shaquille Leonard, however he would like to be known as now. So, look, I expect him to come back. I expect that defense to be strong. They will get that offense going eventually. I don't necessarily think they'll be a powerhouse, but hey, they still got weapons there, man. They still got Michael Pittman. They drafted Alec Pierce. They have two good running backs in Naheem Hines and Jonathan Taylor. And they really should be able to get that offense going against some of the lower teams in the league, especially if they start playing in some divisional games. I don't expect to see a game like we saw in Houston week 1. So as far as impressive and needed it, those are my two ones. And I gotta say, the Chargers loss stings. It stings real bad because they lost everyone in that game. They lost Joey Bosa. They lost Slater. They don't have Keenan Allen another week. Herbert looked bad. Eckler looked bad. But let me tell you, going 0-3 to a team that had not won a game yet, if you're a team that had the expectations that the Raiders had, they're healthy. We don't know what's going on there. They improved in the offseason. They signed veterans. They signed superstars. They traded for Devontae Adams. And nobody could figure out why they can't win a game. So I got to say that one probably stings the most.
Fair. So, Rick, going into you a little bit different. Big wins in the AFC South this week. Obviously, that division finally turning around, it seems, between the Titans win tragically against the Raiders and the Colts and Jaguars both getting victories as well. I want to focus on the AFC South a little bit because not the AFC South, excuse me, the AFC West, because all the credit in the world, the AFC South, getting the wins that they got, and Houston, still a competitive team. I got to give the Texans props. They're not getting blown out in these games. They're keeping it close. Now, granted, the teams that they faced are the Colts, fellow AFC South team, Denver Broncos. Need I say more about Russell Wilson, really? And now the Chicago Bears. Woof. But they're keeping it close at least. And again, props to Doug Peterson. He's really changed the culture, Rick, down there. I think you were one of the very few people I knew that was saying outright Doug Peterson's going to make a bigger difference than I think people were giving him credit for beforehand. I think he really has. So massive props there. But the AFC West, this was dubbed the division of death by everybody, all of us. And this is why sometimes things on paper don't translate to on the field. The Raiders, like Justin said, Devontae Adams, Chandler Jones, new offensive mind in there. The guy who learned at the knee of Belichick for so long. 0-3 right now. offensive play calling looks uninspired. Like I said, that 2-point conversion was just a simple passing play. You got to come with something a little bit better. The routes were simple as hell too. Like that looked like the generic like plays that I would find on the Madden playbook, right? And need I say any more about my thoughts on EA Sports and Madden in general? It was just uninspired play calling by McDaniels there. Whereas the Chargers, like Justin said, like guys are gone, or playing poorly. Like in your opinion, Rick, is there anything that either of those teams can do? Like, is there anything that either team can pinpoint from week 3, or even earlier if you want to say, but from that week 3 going forward that they can use to turn their seasons around? Because I think we need to start hitting the panic button a lot for both those clubs.
Well, let's start off with this. Are the Denver Broncos the worst 2-1 team in the NFL right now?
Probably.
I mean, some people could say the Giants, and that it might be fair because they're saying they were the worst 2-0 team, but I think the Broncos are the worst 2-1 team in the NFL this season. Okay. For the Chargers,
Worse than
it's just
Chicago?
how. Yeah, I think so. Worse than Chicago. I'm going to feed in the jerk's hate of Russell Wilson here. Because that's not what his therapist is talking to him about. It's about the Titans hate, not Russell Wilson hate. So it's different clients, different therapists, different money rate. Back to the point. The Chargers, it's all about injuries. Look, and you know what? Look, this is kind of what happened with Baltimore last year, right? Baltimore had the injury bug hit them at an inopportune time, and it derailed what could have been a special magical season for them. And for the Chargers, that's what it looks like. Yeah, they were uninspired. They were not great against Jacksonville, but Herbert had bruised ribs. They were missing Keenan Allen. You know, you're asking Rashawn Slater to do a lot with a running game that is suspect. And Jacksonville, like we said, Doug Peterson has 180-degree changed that culture for the Jaguars. So the Chargers, I can't really say anything about them that's like, you know, it's sad because you want them to do better, but at the same time, I look ahead for them. They've got Houston this week. There's a chance to kind of get some guys healthier, some guys back on the right mold, and maybe eke out a 16-13 win and get in the win column. With Vegas, let me explain something here. Thank your lucky stars, Josh McDaniels. This team is not in Oakland anymore because the Oakland fans would have done what I did in Sandoval and put your head on a spike and paraded it all over the Bay Area. This Vegas team looks terrible, absolutely terrible right now. And it's amazing to me that we're talking about a possibility of Cole Kmet having more touchdown catches than Devontae Adams. Because at this point right now, you can't say anything different.
Preseason breakout candidate for us.
We called it. We absolutely called it. You can't say anything different. Like, Devontae Adams went from the number 1 wide receiver target in the NFL to not even in the top 25 or 30 at this point right now in stats. It's just, how do you not know how to use a weapon like that? And okay, and you talk about the 2-point conversion play, jerk. Let's go back a week. What about the fact that they ran the same play twice in the Arizona game and Hunter Renfrow fumbled 2 times in a row? Let's talk about that. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's already broke, so fix it. And it's just terrible because this team could be so much better, should be so much better. And I think was Rocky Sin hurt in this game as well?
I think he got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. So the guy that you picked up in the Yannick Ngakoue trade, he's hurt, but your defense is still there. And your offense is still there. I mean, yeah, Josh Jacobs, we know he's a little bit funky, but you got all your pieces. Why is it not working out? And it leads me to Josh McDaniels. Because I'll tell you something. Yeah, John Gruden was a failure. But when Rich Bisaccia was the interim head coach, this team had heart. This team had grit. This team almost knocked out the would-be AFC champions in the playoffs. They played for Rich Bisaccia. And I liken it to when USC brought in Ed Orgeron as their interim, and the players loved playing for him, but the powers that be in Southern California were like, nah, we're going to go with somebody else. Ed Orgeron won a national title in LSU. So you missed the boat there, USC. This is the thing. You could have kept Bisaccia. Maybe it wouldn't have been any different, but the players would have at least played for him. Like, I don't know who they're playing for right now because McDaniels is not inspiring confidence in me or in this team.
Right. Honestly, I would argue that if Bisaccia was there, I think they'd be 2-1 at least. I think they would have won these last two games. In part, like you said, Rick, the heart. But this is also a more talented team than what Rich Bisaccia had last season. Like, he also had a hurt Darren Waller. He didn't have a fully healthy Darren Waller when he took over for them. This year, he's got Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller. You give him a Devontae Adams. He's not a play calling genius, mind you, but he's like, there's still something there. There's still like. I just think it's really bad. It's going down bad with Vegas right now. And I've kind of been like pouring into the idea of like, is there a chance that a first year head coach gets fired after this season? I think it's a real possibility that at least one does, because if the Raiders don't turn this around, Josh McDaniels is not long for Vegas. I know it's a whole thing that there's a lot of money to pay out there. And I know, like, the Raiders owner, Davis especially, like, he is not like his father. He is not deep in the pockets. Like, that man makes, like, very specific money decisions, like, even in his own personal life. But it is, like, you gotta do something there, man, because it's not.
Can I just also bring us back to reality for a second? Did we really compare Devontae Adams to Cole Kmet? I couldn't move past it the whole. I don't even know what you said after that. I couldn't move past it.
Listen, Justin, in current production statistics and in current usage and maybe targets, I think it's pretty similar.
It's not. Cole Kmet has 2 targets on the season. Devontae Adams has 17. I'm sorry.
It feels like Devontae
that's
Adams
receptions.
twice.
That's receptions. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
He got 5 targets, and Devontae Adams has 34. And Devontae Adams has 3 touchdowns to Cole Kmet's 0.
Right. Granted, that's true, but doesn't it feel like less? It does to me. It does to me because
Listen, I'm not sitting here singing the praises of Devontae Adams right now. It's for what Devontae Adams is. It's been fairly disappointing. I know he's averaging a touchdown a game, but after that first game, he did not really have a lot of production outside of the single touchdown catches that he had each game. I'm not sitting here saying it hasn't been disappointing.
And again, in the overtime game against Arizona,
please don't put him in the same conversation as the tight end for the Chicago Bears, who have 2 total passing touchdowns on the year.
Hey, wait. To be fair, Justin, if you take out week 1 for Adams, he's only had 48 yards total since. Kmet had 40 yards alone in the most recent game.
So that's all the yards he has. That's the entire season total.
Yeah, but that's just one game. Devontae Adams has 3 games.
You take out one game and he's got 0.
Yeah.
Big.
Well, no, I took out week 1. If you take out week 1, it's 48-40. It's only an 8-yard difference.
Oh, I'm still giving him the 3 touchdowns.
Well, you also have to take out one touchdown for taking out week 1 for Devontae. Look, obviously, Justin, like
what are we doing here? Do we want credibility or not? I don't understand. Even Bears fans are like, "Yo, chill."
We're here to cause chaos.
They're 2-1. They are 2-1. So clearly they're using Cole Kmet properly.
Jesus Christ. Justin, look, you're talking to 2 guys who each of the last 2 seasons, Rick, I think for this season, and me for last season, said Devontae Adams could potentially break like the yards record or the touchdowns record, one or the other. Like, we love Devontae Adams.
Me too. I picked him on my fantasy team. I love Devontae Adams too. I'm not saying he hasn't been somewhat disappointing this season. They are not. I don't think they're scheming him properly in that system. He had 1 good game, and then they're like, all right, let's let him draw coverage. He doesn't have to play anymore. It's not how you're going to win games. However, anyone on the Bears you're comparing to? Devontae Adams almost has more yards than the entire team.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He probably has Herbert.
He's got more receiving touchdowns than the entire team.
Yeah. If they had used him properly the last 2 weeks, he would definitely have more receptions.
You want to take that game out, Jerry? He's tied.
Oh man. Oh my God. It's amazing. Look, all we're saying is Josh McDaniels figure it out, because he's probably going to get fired in year 1 if things continue to go like this. If they like what's the threshold? Do you guys think that, like, let's say the Raiders disappoint. Let's just say the Raiders season will end in disappointment, right? Let's say they miss the playoffs. How many wins does McDaniels need to get to keep his job?
6.
Really? You think if they go 6-11? with that
I
team?
think if they go 6-11, he's on the hot seat, but I can't necessarily depend. I mean, it depends on the wins, on the games. You know, they played the Chargers somewhat close, I guess, week 1. It was a closer game in the end in the fourth quarter for both of those games, whether or not they should have been. And again, they do play in a tough division, so it'll depend on their divisional record. But if he gets at least 6 games, I don't know if you could justify a season 1 firing. Less than that, after what they had last year, it'll be a major disappointment. Clearly, they made the wrong decision in hiring someone, and I can't really speak to his staying there. But 6, I mean, it's just good enough to maybe survive the first year.
What do you think, Rick?
8.
8 wins? Yeah, that's more so
he
what I
went
was thinking.
7 games, and they're gonna fire him year 1.
Okay, so look, there's been hype with this team. There's talent on this team that's not hurt. They're not doing the right offensive schemes. So either McDaniels is going to be gone, or they're going to bring in a new offensive coordinator, which at that point you're just putting a hat on a hat because McDaniels is a better O coordinator than a head coach. I think we can all agree on that end. I think.
I'm not arguing with any of those points, but I mean, at what point do you make that job unattractive by firing someone year 1?
Well,
I get it. I get they're having a disappointing start.
Two things with that. Well, okay, 3 things. 1, it's not unattractive because it's Vegas. It's not Oakland. You have a brand new stadium. You have a brand new culture. You have a brand new
Look, it's not
opportunity
unattractive at that point because it's an NFL job and there's only 32. But if you want to work for someone, you have to take into account the work environment, the people you're working for. And if you're going to get rid of someone who had a rough season year 1 trying to install his system, what coach is going to be like, man, I really think it's going to be good and easier to coach in Las Vegas. Installing my system is going to be easy. And, you know, they might give me 3 years, even though they got rid of Bisaccia and then they immediately got rid of McDaniels.
2, you have Derek Carr and you have Devontae Adams. So you have an opportunity there to do something, with the special offense. And 3, I'm going to put this out there for you. This is a special opportunity if you're the Raiders, if you're Vegas. How great would it be for this franchise to go from John Gruden, who had all of his comments and all of his miscomings and shortcomings, to go to Eric Bieniemy as their head coach next year?
There's a reason he hasn't gotten a job yet. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be something.
Well, Pat Mahomes can tell you better than anybody else, I guess.
But Shady McCoy can too, apparently. Which
Whoa.
I mean, I'll give LaShawn McCoy credit. He has gone like the Patrick Beverly route, and if he just says the stupidest thing possible whenever he's on a platform, he'll get attention. Like, I know he was great at his peak. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at LaShawn McCoy for a lot of opinions right now. I'm really not.
Well, let me just ask you, because I've always been curious. He's a top guy in the Chiefs system, and he should have been considered for a lot of different head coaching jobs. What does he do there? Andy Reid calls the plays. Andy Reid makes the decisions on who's going to start and who's going to play. What is he doing there?
Well, that's I think the big reason as to why he hasn't been an NFL head coach yet, is because no one can say for certain whether or not it's Andy Reid's offense or Eric Bieniemy's offense. And when they get to that point, a lot of this Rooney Rule stuff has really been, kind of overblown to the point where if we're looking at Bieniemy now, we're saying your offense not your offense. That's a problem. It's like, right. It's like Terrell Austin, who was the Lions D coordinator for a long time, was that defensive coordinator hot candidate. Never got a head coaching job. It's probably the same reason, because how much of it is your defensive schemes or offensive schemes, and how much of it boils down to the head coach. So that, I think, is really where I agree with you. That's probably where the problems lie. But at the same time, like Katherine Heigl in 27 Dresses, how many times can you be a bridesmaid, never the bride?
Well, the answer is plenty, apparently, for a lot of coaches.
Yeah.
Is it 27? I never saw that movie.
Neither did I. He lost
the
the
title.
reference. So who would have thought an 0-3 team would have incited that much dialogue? Who would have thought? Sports Energy Cast podcast, ladies and gentlemen. But moving on from that, let's kind of finish out the West divisions here, since we've already started the discussion on quite a few of those teams. We can kind of finish it. We already talked about the Rams beating the Cardinals 20-12. Just a lot of like bad play calling by Cliff Kingsbury. Again, another one of these offensive oriented guys. Just not great play calling. Kyler had to throw 58 passes. Not going to win for your quarterback throwing 58 times. I'm just telling you. Like
Joe Flacco, Delaware. There you go.
You're just not going to win that game a lot of times. Also, the running game didn't get going at all. But I did mention Marquise Brown, 140 yards in that game. But the Rams just did enough. Their defense did enough to get them the victory in that one. So there was that victory there. The Seahawks lost to the Falcons. The Falcons didn't choke a lead in the fourth quarter. Granted, it was only a 4-point lead. So maybe that's why. Maybe the bigger the lead, the more likely to choke. But the Falcons won the game. Got to give them credit. Helped me out, so not complaining. So there was that, and Geno Smith's Ring of Honor case stayed alive for me because he didn't screw me over out of the points. Let's talk about the primetime games really quick, guys. Or at least primetime is what we technically need to refer to them as. The Colorado Rockies defeated the San Francisco Giants 11-10. Oh no, excuse me. I apologize, boys. The Denver Broncos beat the San Francisco 49ers 11-10 on Sunday night. I could have sworn it was a high-scoring baseball game rather than a football game, but that was a bad one. I think the only person happy with that game was Dan Orlovsky because of what Jimmy G did. But even then, like the funny thing is, if you somehow haven't, first off, this is a football predominant podcast, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't seen the Jimmy G clip, first off, please go do so, and then return to the show. Jimmy G takes a snap, back to pass, steps out the end zone, called for a safety. Now, you would think that's, of course, it's meme-worthy. But here's the funny part. That was actually the good thing that happened there. Because had he not done that, he would have thrown a pick six.
It would have made the score more respectable if he did.
Very true. Very true. But those 2 points,
it was 7-5, and I texted you guys and I said, "Is there bad weather in Denver or something?"
No.
And it was
just bad football.
It was a perfect 65-degree night. I was like, "How can you be this bad?"
I watched that whole game.
Why?
I regret watching that whole game. It's weird. The San Francisco 49ers came out on fire. They drove right down the field. They had a great touchdown to Brandon Ayuk. But after that, there was nothing. There was no offense. And like Eli said, man, maybe those punters should have got paid more.
Well, I mean, you're never going to hear me disagree with that statement. And Russell Wilson trying to go after him after. No dice. Not for me, Clive. Just play better. 20 for 33, 184 yards. The Broncos, I mean, we can say this, guys. The Broncos finally scored in the red zone for the first time this season. Took 3 games, but they finally scored in the red zone. Actually, I saw someone, I forget what the exact number was, but last season, through 3 games of Teddy Bridgewater, the Broncos were 3-0 and had scored more points. My God.
They scored like 75.
Yeah, and they've scored less so far this season. It's bad. But kind of like Rick was talking about, arguably the worst 2-1 team is the Denver Broncos in the NFL. I might actually put the Bears under them because while I hate Russell Wilson, I don't know if I hate him that much to put a quarterback that is underperforming that poorly ahead of him. But the Broncos not playing good. That was just, again, like we had a lot of ugly games, but they weren't the good kind of ugly games, to say the very least. They were bad. They went to senior prom by themselves bad. Yeah.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
What is prom?
That's a good question.
We didn't have it in high school. What is prom? I don't know what you're talking about.
Back in his day, ladies and gentlemen.
That's no. That's a whole other rant for a whole other time because we actually didn't have prom. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
At your school? You're just saying at your school? You mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That I think that was a needed clarification there. Because
yeah. There was a whole reason for it that kind of got thrown by the wayside after the fact. Basically, in a nutshell, our school believed that prom was a gateway to renting out a house in the Hamptons and having alcoholic parties, which, to be fair, it is. But the imagery of a private Catholic high school having that as the after prom party, when I was in 8th grade, they decided to get rid of it completely. They also got rid of the hockey team. And the hockey team came back a couple of years ago. So prom's probably around the corner. But no, I didn't have prom.
Slowly but surely, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Learn that fact. The other primetime game that we saw was the slobber knocker between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. A couple teams that are now 2-1. CeeDee Lamb, touchdown, 87 yards, getting us back on track. Let's just play a little bit better. But obviously, this was a game where the Cowboys' defense really shined, and their defense has been doing a pretty good job this season, all intents and purposes. They're 2-1. They haven't allowed a team to score 20 points yet so far. It was 19-3 to the Buccaneers in week 1. The offense just did nothing. It was 20-17 against the Bengals in week 2, and now 23-16 against the Giants. Cowboys defense has played really good, and you got to give them a lot of credit. Michael Parsons continues to be that next level type player that we expected. And Trevon Diggs, for all the jokes, and I will continue to say that, yes, Trevon Diggs is as likely to get burned on a 40-yard touchdown than he is to get a interception. He's actually played pretty well for the most part this season. So I got to give credit where credit's due there.
And I will say this. This is why I don't pick Alabama guys in the first round, because Evan Neal looked outmatched. DeMarcus Lawrence was abusing him all night long, basically. Yeah. And Micah Parsons, whenever he had that, was also just torching him. Evan Neal, a guy who was a snake twirler, that was his big claim to fame in college, looked like he was like a T-Rex. He had no arms. He couldn't block anybody. And Daniel Jones was pressured all night long because of it. It was brutal.
Look, that's the one thing that the Cowboys are really, really good at. It's getting after the quarterback and forcing them into making poor decisions, which cause turnovers. Evan Neal will be fine. I give him some time. He's an athletic freak. He's a big guy. They turned Andrew Thomas around. I think they'll be all right with Neal. You got to give him some time. You're not going to compare. You're not going to tell me he's a bust because in one game he did really poorly against the Cowboys defense.
I'm not saying he's a bust. I'm not saying he's a bust. I'm saying that is the show of class between a high rookie pick to a 12-year veteran who just absolutely outclassed him all night long. That's the real show of it.
What did you expect, though? Did you expect better?
A little bit, yeah. I didn't expect Daniel Jones to be on his back that much.
I think you would.
I also lost 3 points in this game. All right, so I'm a little bitter.
Of course, I mean
that game.
I mean, I can see it on both sides. DeMarcus Lawrence did have a 3-sack day. That's really tough. But I can also kind of see what Rick is trying to say. Whereas, you look at the what you want out of your rookie left tackle. Some rookie left tackles do get overwhelmed. Others tend to play better. I can't think of a game that Penei Sewell let a guy get 3 sacks on him last season. Look, I know Penei Sewell's Penei Sewell, but Evan Neal was supposed to be one of the premier tackles in this draft class. But I'm also with you, Justin. I would want to give him time. I don't think.
The line's a team position. You also have to look at what help he was getting, because if he was struggling, you don't think that Dable is not going to make adjustments to get him some help.
Mm-hmm. I think he tried, but I think Saquon Barkley couldn't block a
There's only so
light
much
breeze.
You could chip. There's only so much you could chip, and you need help from the interior. And the Giants' interior defensive line is not great.
No, fair. And it was a rough game all around for the Giants. And it also, it didn't help matters when Sterling Shepard randomly goes down, which that is a conversation for another day in terms of the turf discussion.
Turf monster strikes again.
Yeah. So Sterling Shepard out. Daniel Jones didn't look good. Cooper Rush, or as he has been called by one of my friends, Cooper Cush. Cooper Rush is now still undefeated. Yeah, my friend had a slip of the tongue. He accidentally called Cooper Rush Cooper Cush. And I'm sticking with it. So Cooper Cush is now still undefeated as a starting quarterback, and he's 2-0 this season. Dak Prescott's job clearly in jeopardy for the Dallas Cowboys. But now it was just a rough one right there. At the end of the day, some field goals created, but the Cowboys comfortably winning that game, relatively speaking, and staying in second place in that division behind the Philadelphia Eagles, who, we did all the Eagles praise earlier. We know they slaughtered the Washington football team / Commanders / Reskins in their game. They only scored 1 touchdown, did Washington, and it was in literal garbage time. So the NFC East is looking like that. Did I forget to mention somebody? No, I mentioned everybody.
Yeah, that was one of my 4 wins that I picked last week. Was Philadelphia actually beating Washington? Well, I went 4-12 personally. It was a rough week.
Yeah. That's part of the title because last week was a tough week in some ways for this podcast. A lot of teams failed us. A lot of teams failed us. Why? Biggest why. But moving on from that, talk about another couple games here. At least briefly mentioning them that happened before we move on. The Panthers beat the Saints, kind of what we talked about. So it was the first win of the season for the Carolina Panthers. So Matt Rule's job is safe from Justin for now. Victory for them there. Jameis Winston threw 2 more interceptions, playing injured. I believe Andy Dalton is set to start in the London game tomorrow. So you have that if you're the Saints. Chris Olave, 147 yards. Rick, I think you said it last week or the week before. Rookie wide receivers are playing real good this year. They are a lot of these first-round picks. Drake London, for you guys, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson. These guys are balling out for their team. So if we could point out one thing, it was
not Christian Watson though.
Well,
not Christian Watson. He's not.
He's a second-round pick. Second-round pick. Oh, hey, Romeo.
Oh yeah, Romeo Doubs. Yeah,
he's balling. He's balling. First career touchdown there. Also in that Panthers game, like I said, Baker not playing good. 12 for 25, 170 yards, 1 touchdown. Not good. Probably the stat line Brian Hoyer is going to finish with when he faces the Packers tomorrow. Christian McCaffrey had 100 yards. We'll get to it, Rick. Don't worry. And then Laviska Shenault. I'm happy for him. First game, I think he suited up. I think he missed the first 2 for the Panthers. 90 yards, 1 touchdown. Let's go. Good for him. Kind of wish the Jags had tried to keep him because I think he still would have been a great weapon for Trevor Lawrence. But I mean, now that's a weapon for Carolina to play with. So Panthers got their first win going into the game that they have against the Cardinals. Speaking of bird teams, I mean, I just talked about the Panthers, but I mentioned the Cardinals there, so that's my BS transition. The Ravens beat the New England Patriots 37-26, the game where Mac Jones re-aggravated his ankle because I believe he kind of dinged it up in week 1, and now
because he also went to Alabama.
Lamar Jackson in that game, 107 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 218 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Mark Andrews, 2 touchdowns. They just the final score is 37-26 because there were some plays made. The Patriots were able to do a little bit of scoring, but let's be real here. That was a definitive Baltimore Ravens win right there. There wasn't. I don't think there was doubt even when the Patriots at one point they were up 20-14. I don't think there was doubt that the Baltimore Ravens were going to come back in that one. Lamar Jackson just absolutely took over and clearly showing that maybe, boys, here's a concept. They should have paid him. Just a thought. Just an idea. But he's making – I mean, Justin, you said it yourself, actually. I think that one of your final hot takes going into the season, Lamar Jackson could be the MVP again. I think he's got a good chance right now for that, Justin.
Certainly started off that way. ESPN had said that they have not had a single 3-game start to a season with more fantasy points than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. And, I mean, you look at 10 passing touchdowns to just 2 interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns so far, only 1 fumble. He's being efficient with it. His completion percentage right now is 63.6, which, I mean, he's done better, but it's also still pretty early on. He's just tearing teams up. Like, the only reason the Ravens are not undefeated right now is because the defense collapsed. And even that game, the defense let up a few more plays than you expect. Like this, right now with the Baltimore Ravens, it's not the offense you need to question. It's the defense, in part because of injuries, because their secondary has also gotten a little bit banged up like the Buffalo Bills. But that Baltimore team, they're looking like a real weapon. There's a reason why a lot of people thought that they should have potentially been the AFC North favorite this year. And for good reason. They're looking pretty good. I kind of mentioned this game like once or twice in the diatribe. I don't personally have much else to say about this game because, again, it was an ugly game. But Packers 14, Buccaneers 12. Guys, my main thing with this game was just the simple fact that Tom Brady looks old. Like, I know he was missing weapons, but it was still an ugly game. Leonard Fournette couldn't get going. He only had 35 yards. Neither could Aaron Jones, 36 yards. This was a rough game to watch offensively. Yeah. It was really just down to the fact of who was going to make an extra play. And I guess technically the Packers made the extra play because they ended up winning. But that ultimately came down to a 2-point conversion that did not get converted by the Bucs. But it was also, for myself personally, looking back at this game, there was a lot of bad situations the Buccaneers got them in. They found themselves in 3rd and long a lot, like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, like a lot of 3rd and longs. And right now, this Buccaneers team, even 100% healthy, like 3rd and long is not their game right now. So that was my personal analysis with that. Any notes on either of those teams from that game?
Not really. Nothing for me. No.
Do you guys? No. I maybe it was Justin who was kind of like thinking the same thing with me. What does Tom Brady look to you, Justin? Is it just a case where his weapons haven't been there? Mike Evans was suspended that game, Julio's hurt, or like is it something we kind of have to put a little bit on him because he hasn't been that impressive this year?
Let me just say this is a bad offense. Are there excuses? Yes, but it's Tom Brady. I mean, he generally has his offenses in better positions. The defense has played extremely well to keep them in games, but how many touchdowns have they scored on offense? 2, 3? It hasn't been a lot.
Yeah.
I know I'm sorry, passing touchdowns. I know Leonard Fournette has a few. Now, yeah, they're missing a ton of weapons. They're missing their top 3 receivers. They're missing 3 of the starting linemen, I believe. There's a lot of excuses, but look, I mean, there's a lot of other teams that are missing starting linemen and they're putting up points. So it does make you question whether or not Tom Brady's getting a little older.
Right. But I mean, one thing, and I kind of mentioned it with a couple teams here. We mentioned that we praised the Eagles defense, gave a little bit of praise to the Cowboys defense. Got to praise this Buccaneers defense. Only 3 points to the Cowboys in week 1, 10 points to the Saints in week 2, and 14 points to the Packers in week 3. Also got an interception off of Aaron Rodgers, which is pretty rare to do. This Buccaneers defenses look pretty good, even with the questions I had going into it. And they are a little bit dinged up now because Akeem Hicks is going to miss this next game against the Chiefs, I believe. But they've still played pretty well. I got to give a lot of credit to at least the secondary. They've played above expectations for me personally. I'm not surprised that Devin White and Levante David have been like the weapons for them. Like I expected them to be the leaders of this defense. But overall, I gotta say the Buccaneers defense, they played above. They played above at least what I thought it was going to be, because I thought the losses that they've had from what that Super Bowl run was, I thought it was going to affect them way more. They've done a pretty good job. I gotta give them credit there. Last 2 games, and it's kind of more so going into the Thursday night game. But the Dolphins, of course, with that upset win over the Bills, 21-19, where the Buffalo Bills were unable to get one last play to go, and we saw Ken Dorsey absolutely lose his mind in the booth. Quite the clip, to say the least. And the Cincinnati Bengals beat the New York Jets 27-12. They were undeterred by their rough start, and they eventually, it was a close game for a while, but they took over and defeat the New York Jets in that one.
It was never really close. The points were close.
It wasn't.
Anyone that watched that game knew that the Bengals were in control the entire time.
As soon as the Bengals took the field, it was over. Honestly, like it was done.
There we go. There we go. So
receipts back.
Yeah, kind of going fast on that one. Yeah, more receipts for Robert Saleh to collect now for future games. But I more so want to take those games and kind of go into what was the Thursday night game this week, because those 2 teams ended up playing. It was a 27-15 game. The Cincinnati Bengals ended up winning. Of course, as I kind of mentioned before, Dolphins now 3-1. Bengals now even it up at 2-2. Guys, the game in and of itself, it was like kind of close to start, but I think it's a similar thing to what you guys mentioned with the Jets game. Even though the Dolphins at one point made it close and technically took a 15-14 lead, I think we knew after what happened to Tua that the Bengals were eventually going to take that game, and they ended up scoring 13 points in the 4th quarter to do so. A couple field goals by Evan McPherson, including a 57-yarder. So there you go, and a Hayden Hurst touchdown. But let's not sugarcoat it. The story here, guys, what happened to Tua in the Buffalo Bills game? Gets knocked down, very shaky getting up. He gets up, walks a little bit, falls, gets up. At one point, shakes his head a little bit, trying to clear the cobwebs. Not looking good. Barely able to finish that game. Goes into this one, looking decent to start. You got to give credit. It was looking fine. The Dolphins' offense wasn't bad. But then another hit happens. I forget who the defensive player was that brought him down on the play. But gets brought down on a sack, and it was not looking good. He stayed down, and it was bad, to say the very least. Lot of things to say about this, and actually in the private chat here, I'll throw it to Justin first, because Justin is actually, perusing social. He got an update about it. So, Justin, do you want to share what you shared to us in the chat about what the recent news about what happened with Tua?
Sure. So, according to multiple sources, including ESPN, the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant who was involved in clearing Tua for the Bills game in the second half has been fired by the NFL. They found out he made several mistakes in his evaluation, which, I mean, anyone who saw him on the field didn't really need to make an evaluation. Everyone knew what was going on. So they let him go. It's a terrible look for the NFL to even have had someone in here. You're going to have all sorts of questions of collusion. Was he paid off? How did 2 doctors miss it? Because the Dolphins doctor took a look at it. So there's going to be a whole bunch of nasty things going around. And really, you just gotta pray and hope for Tua, which, again, even after this, I don't necessarily think they've been making the right decisions. I mean, who's ever heard of a guy who just had his second concussion in 4 days, mind you, flying home with the team, watching movies on screens on his phone and things? I've had a concussion before. The first thing they tell you is stay away from lights, don't look at any screens. It's the first thing they tell you. The kid clearly got knocked out again. It's a sad and scary situation, and you just gotta hope that at one point these guys are gonna pick it up and be like, this is someone's life that we're dealing with. This is someone's brain that we're dealing with, and you're not doing this person any favors by making him play another game. Let him sit down, let him regain himself, and I saw one take from a doctor online saying that he shouldn't play for the rest of the year. So we'll see what's going on coming up, but scary stuff.
Yeah, to say the very least. For me personally, and this is like my piece, and I'll throw it over to you, Rick. My big thing with this was I think this exposed the ever-present problem still of dealing with head injuries in the sport like football. As both me and Rick being hockey fans, and the NHL has also had to deal with this, hockey as a whole. But along with that is also still the culture of football in and of itself. Look, I see some people trying to put some of this on Tua in terms of like he said that he still wanted to play, that it's his ankle, it's his back. Look, I don't care, man. At some point, the organization needs to take responsibility. The culture of football and pro sports in general is it doesn't matter how hurt you are. If you can still get up, you can still play. That is the culture that Tua and so many of these guys get brought up on. So, of course, if there's something that could potentially take him out the game, he's going to try to make up whatever he can to stay in there for his guys, because this game teaches its young, team first, doesn't matter what's up with you. Unless you've been literally hit by a car, which sometimes these plays look like they're car crashes, you need to go back in there for your team. So for the people that are trying to throw out the take out there that Tua is a bit culpable, I sort of kind of get it. Like they're trying to say that
play no matter what.
Exactly.
It is your job and responsibility to come out and say, this is not safe for you. And it's not even on the Dolphins as much as I want to. I mean, it is on the Dolphins, but as much as I want to say it, for the NFL to have someone in here who could have possibly been bribed or could have, missed some of these diagnoses. I mean, the kid couldn't even stand.
Yeah.
You had him in the game less than a half hour later. That's bad, man.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
He literally, on the initial play, so this is the Bills play when it happened. He grabs his head, he gets up, he falls down again, he shakes his head. We're not doctors. And this is the thing when stuff like this happens, that if you want to see some toxic parts of Twitter and sports fandom, you go to a feed after a player got hurt and it might be a head injury, because you'll see some of those stupidest and most toxic traits from people where they're like, well, are you a doctor? No, but everything that happened there, it's not his back. Like Justin, you mentioned it. You had a concussion. I've had like ankle and stuff before. Rick, I'm kind of presuming this. I'm sure you probably had a back issue at least once. If you've ever had a back or an ankle issue, guys, do you immediately go to grab your head? Like, what? Sometimes, look, I've said this once. I'll say it again. Can we please?
That wasn't an ankle issue.
No. But what I'm saying is that they put him on the injury report. They were trying to play it off as if, it's his back, it's his ankle, it's something else. And this is the thing.
When I saw that, I just assumed that Tua falls apart all the time. He probably had tweaked his ankle. I mean, didn't he have surgery on that ankle?
Yeah,
he did.
But the point is, going into that game, this is the thing where we're saying it's 2 concussions in 4 days. People are trying to say, well, the Dolphins didn't report the first one as a concussion. I don't give a damn what the Dolphins reported it as. I think it was pretty clear as day the dude got concussed there. But in the report going into the Thursday night game, guys, they said it was his back. Not his ankle, but they said it was his back. And this is a constant issue where, I mean, you saw all the reaction on Twitter, guys. I saw one person say that this is a step back for the NFL in the concussion protocol thing. How could you let this happen? I think this is a failure on the culture of football that is still the same thing, still the same toxic culture that we raise these kids under. And this is a result of it, because this is bad. Like you said it, you put it in the context, Justin. He played less than a week after that first one, and he got concussed again. 4 days. And really, like from Sunday to Thursday, one of those days he has to travel. So he traveled with a concussion. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, he probably saw film. So even after that second one, Justin, that you mentioned, how he eventually goes back, it's just a complete mismanagement of the situation. And You said it best. It's a bad look for the NFL. It's a bad look for the Shield overall. Rick, I know we've said a lot of it, so maybe it's taken up a lot, but your thoughts on this? Because this was like just a scary situation. Like when he was laying down there, like the way his hands were, like that was scary. And literally, when I saw that picture, my first thought was like, can you imagine if his family is either there at the game or if they're watching from home and they see that happen? Like it's just terrible.
Look, this game has lost so many of its great ambassadors over the years, and even so many of its rising stars over the years to CTE, concussion-related injuries, and the like. It is a physical, violent game. I think when they measured the brain of John Mackey, who until recently was the greatest tight end to ever play the game, whose namesake is on the award for the best tight end of the season. His brain was absolute mush. Absolute mush. So knowing what you know now about how violent and physical this game is, you have doing more to take care of mental health and to take care of sphere and crown of the head injuries like that. My big thing, this is now a war cry to get the NFL affiliated neurotrauma consultants. Like you said, this guy was unaffiliated, Justin. I think at this point,
so
the NFL needs.
They want completely unaffiliated from the NFL and the team so that it's a completely unbiased situation. They don't want anyone that's.
Granted, I agree with you on that end. However, the point remains that I would rather the NFL hire their own consultants and make it NFL neurotrauma consultant committees in that regard. Having unaffiliated, they might not know about football injuries. They might be coming from a different sport. And yeah, you could say, well, they learned it in school. So C- med students open DACA boxes. Doesn't mean they're qualified to treat me for a flu shot. You know, in truth, this is why you need to, maybe Bennett Amalu had a point when it came to concussions and what the NFL is doing and is not doing, because, you know, there's a whole understanding of, in the past, it was, well, men were men and they got hit and the helmets were leather and the football was leather and they didn't wear pads and get off my lawn and all that other fun stuff that older men say. This is a different game now. Technology has changed to the point, and builds have changed to the point where you have these sick, vicious hits on these players. And the one thing that I will say about, and I'll give him one iota of credit for this, because I watched the highlight. Al Michaels knew right away that it was a traumatic response to the injury. That's the only thing I'm giving Al Michaels credit for in that game, because he knew what was happening. It still was scary. And the fact of the matter is, if you think about it, there was an injury a couple weeks ago in, was it the Ravens game or something like that, or maybe the Jets game, where they were like, CBS Sports refused to show you the injury because they said it was that bad. I think it was Kyle Fuller, whatever it was. Well, Amazon was right there close. That's another problem too. But everybody failed this. Everybody failed this. And again, look, football players are warriors. We understand that. But there's a point in time where you have to say, look, as I said, the show after I got my appendectomy, because I came back for the show, what did I say? Listen to your body. Yeah, your team, you want to win the game. I get it. But you know what you also want to do? Grow old enough to have kids that remember when you played the game and that have you remember how you played the game. So, as you said, Justin, it's a bad look for everybody involved. And you only hope that Tua just gets better from this. I agree with you. I'm not playing him the rest of the season if I'm Miami. I don't care about how it's going to affect your bottom line and bottom dollar. Show that you care about this kid and about your team and about everybody else that's there. Because I'll give you this example. You're not going to put Rashawn Slater or Sterling Shepard back on the field with a torn ACL, are you? So why is it different for a head injury? Why is it any different?
Yeah, it's just really rough, and it's like you said, about everyone failed here. Everyone failed. The culture of football failed. The way that they have it set up, like, it's just it's hard to put into words properly just how rough it was to see that. And this, I think, is also a problem with, and I mentioned it, the toxicity around it, where everyone is so immediate to question if it's a concussion or not. Like, like head injuries in sports are the worst in part because the fan responses are sometimes the worst because some people are like, well, how do you know it's a head injury? I'm
Did
serious.
either of you hear the radio broadcast?
From the Thursday night game?
Yeah, I was in the car on my way home. Guy pulled to Tony Romo. He was like, looks like Tua dislocated his finger. No, it was a serious brain injury.
Yeah.
So
it's still one of those things where, and God, this could be a metaphor for a lot of things, but it doesn't matter if we've made progress. There's still way more progress to be made because it's nowhere near where it should be. Is the NFL?
Sure.
Can you argue? No, go Rick. Go.
Let me, because you hit on a very good point here. If you have to ask if you're concussed or if it looks like a concussion, then you should err on the side of caution. It's like if you have an allergy to food and you have to ask the person because they don't know if the food that you're eating was made with the one ingredient you're deathly allergic to, then you should know firsthand, don't order that food in a restaurant. If you don't know if it's a concussion, but you're not sure, take the kid out, get him evaluated, and don't put him back in if you're not sure. Like, there's no way he passed that concussion test after the Buffalo game.
Well, that's what they're saying. So they said that they did take him out. They did put him through the testing, and they're blaming the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant.
They need to be better with the concussion test. You should not be able to get that
absolutely.
easily back into the game. Like, I know the basic questions because when a concussion happens or when the fear of a concussion happens, I know some it starts with basic questions on are you still relatively aware of your surroundings? Like, I forget who the player was. So I was listening because I've listened to so many sound bites about this, even after what was the Buffalo game. And one player said that like he goes through the concussion protocol, and they just asked him like 2 or 3 questions. They were like, "What's today's date and who's the president of the country?" And it's like, and he said that it's like, you expect me to not remember that it's game day? Okay, and president of the country, come on. Like that's an isolated incident, but like whatever the quote unquote concussion protocol is, like I don't care if it's better than what it was 5-6 years ago. It still needs to improve. I don't think, and maybe, and look, I said this on the front end that I'm a hockey guy, and in hockey, concussions are taken super seriously. Guys sit out, Rick. We saw a Hall of Fame career nearly go down the drain in Sidney Crosby so many years ago in the beginning of the 2010s. The Pittsburgh Penguins, they're lucky that they ended up winning still with Crosby. His career, he missed what, a season and a half?
But you know what? Also, like we can't really use that as a great example, though, Jurg, because look at Paul Correa in the 06 Stanley Cup Final in 03 in Game 6. He was flattened by Scott Stevens. He was out on the ice for about a minute and a half. Right. Went off for about 10, 15 minutes of game time, whatever it was able to come back because he passed the test and still scored a goal. Like hockey, there were some stories like that, and I understand, but at the same time, to your point, I think that's kind of how concussions are treated across the base. Mm-hmm. What day is it and who's the president? But yeah, the NFL has to develop more tests than that. Like, where are you? What city are you in? What team do you play for? Or all that sort of stuff. Like, there's got to be more tied specifically to other things than just those simple questions.
There's other ways to test it. They don't have to ask questions. You could see how you react to specific light, react to specific exercises. There's other ways, but that they could be more thorough as well.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, the NFL is obviously going to have to take a look and see what they can do to improve the system, because obviously the system they have in place failed greatly.
Yeah.
But here's my one problem with that. The NFL is run by the owners. Goodell's like the commissioner, but the owners put him in charge.
The owners have to understand at this point, something like this threatens the well-being of the game. It does, from the very top to the very bottom. Parents are going to watch those games and say, hell no, my kid's not playing football. Parents are going to watch these games, and kids are going to watch these games and be like, I don't want to play football. There's going to be an issue. And the more you mishandle it, the more upset people will be, and it'll cost you money, which is the bottom line for these people. So they're going to, whether or not they want to, they are going to address this. I don't
Yeah.
know if they're going to do it the right way, but they are going to address this.
And Justin, to your point, and this is the final thing I'll say on it, how many strikes does the NFL get in this? Because it seems like they're on strike like 95.
So unfortunately,
it seems like there's
how many dollars they got in pocket?
It is. Well, Stephen Ross also wasn't there, so
cell phones exist.
Can't blame him.
No.
He can't have any contact with the team. No team activities. Remember?
Right.
Until 2 weeks from now.
He's also not allowed to have contact with Tom Brady, but he did it for 2 years.
Well, I mean, granted, that's true,
Don't
but
be so naive. Don't be so naive. You don't think Stephen Ross is at home watching that game?
Bad cell reception in Cincinnati. That's what happened.
In there.
He was blinded by the
white
uniforms.
Whatever he wants.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he did or he didn't do that. There's no evidence. Would I be surprised to hear that Stephen Ross or almost any owner in the NFL called up and had their star quarterback in a huge game, wanted him back in after halftime, and was willing to pay whatever it took to get him back in there? I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean,
this is Reven Stoss, not Stephen Ross. It's Reven Stoss. That's my name.
Reven Stoss. Oh man, so that little that little thing aside, obviously we hope the best for Tua. I think we're all in agreement like that dude shouldn't touch up football for a while. He needs to it needs to be definitively known that he is okay to come back. And it's scary. Like you mentioned it, Rick, like how many strikes does the NFL get? I really hate to be the ultimate pessimist here. I think it needs to take a dang near catastrophe for it to happen. Because the thing with Tua, by the way, and we're using common sense here. With the Buffalo hit, concussion number 1. With the Cincinnati one, you assume concussion number 2. I forget the exact name of it. I think it's second impact syndrome or something like that. Yeah. Something along those lines. Yeah. There is I forget what the percentage is. There is a chance that after getting a second concussion and usually the fear in second impact is after a week or 2 from the initial concussion. This wasn't even a week. The fear in the second impact is that there is a chance that person passes away. And assuming we've cleared the point with Tua, which I obviously thank God, I think it's going to take that for the NFL for it to actually finally be a stain on them. Is if a player actually, and I hate to bring it to that point, but
let's hope that's not the case.
No, I don't want it to be, but come on, bro. Like this is the same league where a guy who we had to have so much litigation on 20 plus cases of sexual assault is going to be playing again this season. I'm sorry, I can't put any trust in the NFL now. I just can't. I don't trust them with Tua's well-being anymore. I don't trust them with any of these decisions anymore. And I don't think they've earned the right to be trusted.
Jurg, I worked with somebody over the summer in Brooklyn, just to wrap a bow on this, who played Division II basketball up at Southern Connecticut State University. You know how many concussions they got while they were playing there?
How many?
7.
Jesus.
So you're right. Second impact is one thing or another, but at the same time, you gotta do something to protect everybody. Contact sports are no joke, and no matter how much padding, no matter how much helmet, optimization you do, not gonna change the fact that somebody is gonna take a bad hit. Well, look how many spinal injuries there have been too in football in the past 25 years. Someone's going to die on that football field. Unfortunately, it's going to be tragic unless someone steps in and changes things. And right now, the NFL not seeming like they're willing to change everything they need to.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a shame. It is a real shame. Obviously, to put the ball on it. Hope the best for Tua. Hope he is able to get back, but hope it's handled properly. I think that's the only thing we can hope for at this point. That he's able to come back. Rough way to segue. It's not exactly easy to do this, but this might be the podcast that is the best at doing it, considering some of the topics that we've had discussions about. That ends the Thursday Night Football discussion. Again, the game was the game. I like the game was secondary compared to everything else that happened and transpired to it, obviously. Yeah. So we awkwardly transition, which I think that's the only way the show ever does it. Awkwardly transition into the pick challenge, to say the very least. The title of this episode is titled that way for a reason. Rick had a lot of personal pain with his predictions this week, and Justin had a lot of pain with some of his predictions
every week.
Every week, yes.
Actually, to be fair, Justin at one point on Sunday was in second place solo. It wasn't for the fact that Denver somehow won that game. which I can't even call that a win at that point. So I feel bad about taking the points. But
You can drop them, Jared. Rick, you want to pick first?
as I was saying, moving on here, going into this week, Jurg leads with 17 points. It's a bit of a runaway, but not completely a runaway.
Oh,
I'm in
this could
second
flip
place.
next week. I could be in third place by next
Well,
week.
I already told you what I think you should do for your 5-point pick this week. So there you go.
That's very true.
Yeah, I'm in second with 11. John's in third with 10, and he didn't win the game last week, so he's still at 5.
Really?
Yeah, he went 0-3.
Wow.
Just to recap, last week he had Arizona beating the Rams. That didn't happen. New Orleans beating Carolina. That didn't happen. And Tampa Bay beating Green Bay. That didn't happen either.
Woof.
So, yeah. Not great.
Rick, since you have done the record keeping, beautifully done, by the way. Have any of us won 3 games in a week yet? Because that's my thing with this. I don't think any of us have won 3 games in a week.
However, here are the streaks that are so far. You are 3-0 at the 4-point pick. You've also won 2 games in a week for every week this season so far. And Justin, you've won 2 games in a week for the last 2 weeks going. So I have nothing because the football gods hated me last week.
the football gods giveth and the football gods take it away. We'll see what streaks end up ending this week for all intents and purposes, boys. And it begins now. Justin, once again, for the real quick. So we did it before the Rams game. Yeah, because we did it before the first game of the season, and now the first 3 weeks, and now this is week 4. So technically fifth week in a row. Justin picks first.
5th? This is only week 4. How is that possible?
I mean, did we do like something like this for the Rams Bills game? Like, didn't you get first prediction there? Or
No, we did. So we did. No,
there was no order.
Oh,
it was just
we
like
did.
randomly.
Oh, fair. Okay.
Yeah, no, there was no order. Well, you were ceremoniously first there too. It's fine.
That's the thing. You did pick first, Justin. To be fair.
Yeah. Loyal podcast viewers will know you picked first that week as well.
The only reason I remember is because we used the Wheel
Shout
of
out
Chaos.
to Charles and Marcus in Aberdeen, by the way.
Well, we used the Wheel of Chaos for week 1. Look, the random shout out to Aberdeen. Look, all that being said, Justin is picking first once again, 4th week in a row. Will he be able to break it this week? Let's see. Justin, you begin this week. Ladies and gentlemen, quick recap of the rules. We all get 4 picks each. 4-point game, most confident. 3-point game, second most confident, et cetera, going down to our 1-point game. Either you must pick at least one upset game, and it has to be at worst your 2-point game. It cannot be your 1-point game. So, rules reestablished. When I'll get to stop doing that, who knows? I probably will still do it every single week. Irregardless, Justin, the first pick is once again yours. Like the Edmonton Oilers in the 2010s here. Your 4th first overall pick. Let's see. What are you going to do? What do we got?
I have a couple games that I would inevitably be disappointed by this week. So I do, I'm really staring hard at this Packer game. They're home. They're by far the highest favored team as far as ESPN's point spreads go. It is a Patriots team with Brian Hoyer, no Mac Jones, an offense that struggled even with Mac Jones. And it's just somehow one of those games that Bill Belichick is probably going to keep close and torture me if I pick the Packers. So I don't know if I could bring myself to do it. I mean, I whatever. Who cares? I'm not going to win this one anyways. I might as well take a game off for you guys. I'm going to pick the Packers over the Patriots.
Yeah. I mean, I think you said everything there. Belichick can weirdly keep games close sometimes, but the Packers are the overwhelming favorite. They are the biggest odds-on favorite this week. I think they're the only one even above a touchdown, actually, from what I'm seeing. Yeah, they're the only one above a touchdown. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, for the record, we're using like ESPN's odds before the game for our stats in terms of like picking our upset. So there's that. Yeah, they're the only team that's above a touchdown right now. So it's a big one. Whoa. You were hoping he would pass, Rick? You were hoping?
No, I mean, it's the best shout possible because Bailey Zappe's not starting this game for the Patriots, so therefore they automatically are going to lose.
Doesn't mean he's not finishing that game.
That's true.
Okay, so he'll come in when it's 27-2.
Wait, you're giving them a safety? Wow, that's bold.
Yeah, sure. Well, Rodgers will join Garoppolo in running out of the end zone. That's just the way things are going now this year.
It wouldn't surprise me. So moving on from that, Rick, your first pick.
Oh man. Well, that was the easy game, but I'm kind of tempted to do something a little different, and I'm going to pick an upset for my 4-point pick. I'm going to. I have a
Phones
few
off,
upsets.
please, boys.
Actually, I have 7 upsets this week from my regular
Jesus.
picking.
You love
I know,
the upsets.
and some of them I don't really know what I was thinking. But this one I have an idea of. Whose one is that? Is it?
It's not
Jersey?
mine.
It's me. It's coming through on my computer.
Oh, is this a group chat message? Yeah, okay. Everyone wants to pick. Since I'm going to be the only one of us that's up early for it enough, I'm going to pick the Saints over the Vikings in London.
Ooh.
Are
you counting that as a primetime game? Is that why it's Kirk Cousins?
Technically speaking, yes, it's probably so. Look, I think this game is going to be rough for both games involved. I think the trip's going to be rough, but I feel like New Orleans is going to play better on defense and really take this to Kirk Cousins. And I think that's the difference. I mean, yeah, Dennis Allen's offense hasn't really been as prolific as the Sean Payton offense, but I still think they have enough talent there to overcome Jameis Winston's inevitable mistakes of throwing 2 interceptions in a game. And London games can either be close field goals or blowouts. So I'm going to pick the Saints. I need a 4-point special. I'm going to go with them to try and see if maybe that'll give me some luck. So let's see if the Saints go marching into England and come back with a victory.
I mean, wouldn't be the first time some Saints went in and won a battle on English territory to steal a win.
Well, you would know Jerk better than anybody.
Yes.
You have the crusading lore and history.
I should have made a New Orleans joke. I'm upset with myself now.
That's okay.
Oh, it was right there for me. Oh my god.
Yep.
Well, I can at least sort of make up for it. Look, we have the rule for a reason, and we have to use it at some point. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the rules for the pick challenge is the fact that you can pick a tie to occur, but it has to be with your 4-point pick. I think. Wait, Justin, do you have the reaction for a reason? Are you scared this is actually going to end up being a tie for me, or are you upset that I'm going with Rick's suggestion?
No, go for it, man. You're in first place. I don't know why you would do that. I mean, unless you really, really want that Cole Strange jersey.
I'm here for. Oh, okay. Wait. I thought the Cole Strange jersey was for the division predictions.
It could be for anything at this point. It's a Cole Strange jersey. Who the hell knows?
We'll figure it out.
I don't understand why anyone would pick a tie, but
would listen to me for that matter. So
2 strikes in one move.
Yeah, two strikes in one move. Look, Lions Seahawks. If there is a game that could potentially tie this week, it definitely would be that. So I'm more than tempted to go with that as my tie, and I don't know if I'm going to get a better opportunity this early on in the season to go with that. That being said, not going with it. Not going with the tie.
Okay.
I too, for the first, I am doing a first time for myself though, because for the first time, I'm actually going to use an upset pick for my 4-point pick, which I haven't done yet. I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals over the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are currently favored by 1 point, as slim as it is. As slim as it is, it still counts. Look, the Panthers' offense has not been good. I think even Christian McCaffrey is questionable for this game. And while I know the defense has played well, I don't think they faced a quarterback quite like Kyler just yet, especially not on Kyler's level. So I'm rocking with the Arizona Cardinals in this one, to say the very least. So that was my 4-point pick. And that's actually like a big reason I wanted to get that upset pick is because that's kind of the most confident I am in any of the upsets, truth be told. There are a lot of games here that I'm kind of not feeling it on. So if I were to continue to look, because now it's snake format, so it goes to my 3-point pick now. There are a lot of tough games here. A lot of tough games. But, the feelings, boys. It's all in the feelings. And sometimes, and while I'm normally not for this, Sometimes you need to let the hate consume you and let hate into your heart.
Oh no!
So I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders over the Denver Broncos this week. Why? Because I don't like Russell Wilson and his whole. By the way, I thought this was a meme. I did not know that Russell Wilson actually had his own sandwich with Subways in like some sort of deal. I didn't know that.
I think it's new.
I saw memes about it and I was like, oh, this is funny. Is it like, do people know his Subway sandwich order? Which if so, I actually kind of have to side with Russ here. It's like you people are a little bit too much in terms of critiquing the man's Subway sandwich order. No, it's an actual deal with Subways for his sandwich. And I saw the ingredients in that sandwich. And just like Russell Wilson, it's a bit much. It's a bit much for the camera, buddy, which is never surprising. So I let the hate in my heart. Raiders over Broncos. And also Nathaniel Hackett. He's a hack. Josh McDaniels is also a hack. But if I got to pick one of them, I'm going to go with Josh McDaniels. Barely. By like a point. Like it's not pretty, but it's what I got.
Wow. That's rough. There's a 3-point game staring me in the face that I'm going to take. And I don't really understand why it's an upset. I really don't. ESPN has it at a -1.5.
Oh, I know. I know where you're going with.
Yeah, the team that I'm not taking. And I don't really understand why. So give me the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams in my 3-point upset special. Somehow, this is an upset pick over the 49ers. Did y'all see Jimmy Garoppolo run out of the end zone last week? Like, how is San Francisco still favored in this game?
There are a lot of weird ones.
This is a game that you hype onto a parlay with another surefire win because it's an upset, and you're going to make money for some reason. I don't know.
No,
But
it's weird. It is weird to
So,
say.
yeah,
It's Justin,
Rams.
you.
Well, now that my upset picks have gone, I don't know what to do. So I almost went Rams Niners with my first pick. I was hoping that it would be there on the way back. And I really, really didn't think that anyone was going to pick the Cardinals as their 4-point game. So now I'm just left with no one. I'm going to say, as my 3-point pick, I'm going to try and stay safe. Although, again, nothing I've ever picked has ever been safe in this because it never works out for me. I'm going to say the Cowboys are going to beat the Commanders. I'm looking at you, Rick.
I was gonna offer you that as my upset special for you to pick Washington in that game instead.
No, thanks.
I'm good.
And then there's 2 teams specifically that I have here that are underdogs that I may pick. And just for the sake of, not because they shouldn't be underdogs, but they are the best teams in these situations and can win any game. So I'm going to tell you who they both are. I'm torn between the Ravens home against Buffalo or the Chiefs on the road in Tampa Bay. I know that there is also talk about moving this game depending on the weather and the quality of the field conditions in Tampa, but it's hard because I do think the Chiefs are going to win that game, but Tom Brady rarely loses 2 games in a row. So that's the only thing that's really got me. Tampa's a 1-point favorite. The Bills are a 3-point favorite as per ESPN's rankings. I'm gonna say I think I have to trust that the Chiefs are the more complete team at this point, even though I do think Lamar is killing it. The Bills are really gonna have to outscore them. And I think Marlon Humphreys is going to do his best to take Stephon Diggs off the field, which is going to mean that other players have to beat him and their talent severely drops. I'm not saying they don't have talent on that team after Stephon Diggs, because they do have some good players. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs in my 2-point upset special to defeat the lackluster Tampa Bay Tom Brady's.
So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no longer the Gronkaneers, projected to. Yeah, I was with you. Like I said, Justin, like there are a lot of games that are upsets randomly this week. That was one where like I don't see the reasoning for having I know it's just a point, and maybe that's a cop out by ESPN on their lines.
Probably. That Bucks defense has played very well, and you could see what the Indianapolis Colts defense did to Kansas City a week ago. We'll see. I mean, I could see them shutting them down. I wouldn't be super surprised if the Tampa Bay Bucks won that game, but if they do, it'll be low scoring, and it's hard to picture a low scoring Chiefs team. So I went with the Chiefs there.
True. All right, fair enough. Rick, off to you. Your 2-point game.
Well, there's an upset staring me in the face that I would take that would absolutely destroy this podcast completely, because no way in hell would this happen unless it does. You know what? Because I'm planning to do upsets all the way through. So let's get spicy with this one. And this is going to be one that I know certain somebody might just sign off the back. And I may too, because why am I doing this? Because I love chaos. My 2-point special is Jacksonville beating Philadelphia.
Oh.
The Eagles cannot stay unbeaten forever. They can't.
Next week.
So the Jags are the team that's doing it.
Hey, Doug Peterson goes back and
Revenge
beats the team that won the Super Bowl with. Why not? Trevor Lawrence has been playing a lot better. James Robinson's been playing a lot better, and they might be the key to stopping Jalen Hurts and figuring things out. So it's a matchup of two hot teams that are coming in at the right time. And I've seen this a lot where this has kind of been a trendy upset pick. That Jacksonville over Philly's been a trendy upset pick. So I'll hop on that bandwagon and see if it crashes into Lincoln Financial Field or if I can, keep on. So I'll go Jacksonville over Philadelphia for my 2 points.
Okay. All right. Man, that puts me in an interesting position. Really, really interesting. Because, it's funny we have the point system ranked off of confidence. Honest to God, I'm not confident in a lot of these games. I feel like we're going to get footballed this weekend, guys, and we're going to get screwed over in some of these
I
picks.
get footballed every weekend, jerk. What are you talking about?
So, I got back-to-back. I'll try not to deliberate too much. For my 2-point pick, and I'm really going in with the West Divisions, I'll go Chargers over Texans. I know the Texans technically need to get a game, but the Chargers need a win to keep their season as afloat as they can. I know they're banged up, but to me, I hate to put this on Herbert because I love him, but this needs to be the game that they win despite all the injuries. And I don't think the Texans are the team that should necessarily overwhelm you. So I'm going to go with the Chargers here. I think that they need to win this game. Now, my 1-point game. Again, interesting. Not a lot of games I like, but I'm going to try to do a favor for my friends. Then again, I might get screwed over here. But I picked this team to win on my other podcast. I'm going to pick them to win this game as well. And it also takes the burden off of you two. I'm going to go with the New York Jets to defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers for my 1 point.
God damn it! Now I don't have an upset for my 1-point pick, jerk.
Now, here's a fun fact. Now, I may have screwed over the Jets here. On my other podcast, week 1, I picked the Steelers to lose. They won. Week 2, I picked the Steelers to win. They lost. Week 3, I picked the Steelers to lose, and they won. So everything has been opposite so far. Actually, no. I picked the Steelers to win, and they lost.
Right. You must pick them to win, and they lost.
No, yeah, that's what I meant. I picked them to win the last 2 weeks, and they lost. And I picked them to lose the week 1, and they won. So there's a chance here. The Steelers, it's solely based on what my selections are. But like I said, I don't want to be inconsistent between my pods, so I'm going all in. Jets, Jets against the Steelers.
That was going to be that's why I wore the Delaware shirt to troll Joe Flacco because he's not starting anymore. Like, come on now.
Sorry.
What are you doing to me? Awful.
torturing you apparently.
Well, yeah, you're doing a great job of that. Okay, so my 1 point pick then has to be a favorite because again, when I did my picks before, not a lot of good options here for me. But you know what? I'm going to ride with the team that I've been riding with for much of this season, and I'm going to take the Lions my 1 point pick over Seattle. I know it's a trap game. I know it could be a tie. I know Geno Smith could be the worst thing ever. But at the same time, I think the Lions will right the ship and be 500. So I'll pick the Lions.
Fair. Aren't you glad I left that for you now?
No, not really.
All
I
right.
would have picked that game. I don't think that's a trap game. They lost the last week. So,
Justin?
Yeah, but again, no, I'm going to St. Brown and DeAndre Swift. So I don't know.
it's true. Shoot, I don't know, man. This is a tough week. A lot of the good games were chosen. Let's see what I have left. I have the Chargers at the Texans, the Bills at the Ravens, the Bears at the Giants, the Titans at the Colts, and the Browns at the Falcons, I believe.
Well, I picked the Chargers game, so.
Yeah,
Did you?
So you just have
Literally everything you said, but take out the Chargers game. I picked that one.
Good. I didn't want that one anyways.
That's cap.
Yeah,
You would take that if that was
it's
the
100%. Do I bet on the Colts?
That is a dangerous game.
make Jerk very happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Jerg? I like you. I'm gonna make you happy. I'm gonna bet on the Colts.
Let's go.
Oh, so you don't like me? So you pick against my team when you pick for him. Wow, what the hell is
Against
this?
me first, Rick. I told you the Eagles were gonna be good this year. You didn't want to listen to me.
I still want to listen to you now.
Listen, I'm not like a huge Eagles fan here. I just they made good moves.
It's fine. Whatever.
It's fine. I also
Whatever.
picked the Raiders to win their division. So look how we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we're doing
that wraps up this week. Rick, to the overall selections that we have, our 4 through 1s.
Yep. Overall selections: Jerg, 4 points for Arizona, an upset. 3 points for Vegas, 2 points for the Chargers, 1 point for the Jets. Myself, upsets at 4 points: New Orleans, 3 points for the Rams, 2 points Jacksonville, and 1 point the favorite Detroit over Seattle. Justin, 4 points Green Bay, 3 points Dallas, 2 point upset special for Kansas City, 1 point for Indianapolis, and for this damn deer over here, 3 points 3 point special. He's gonna go Baltimore over Buffalo.
Turn him around real quick. Turn him around for this last segment, please.
Sure.
There we go. Beautiful.
3 point special. He's going Baltimore over Buffalo. 2 point special. He's going to take the Giants over the Bears, and that leaves 1 point. He's going to go Atlanta over Cleveland.
Do me a favor, Rick. Turn him back around. I don't want to look at him.
It's the end of the show, Justin.
It's too much.
He's got the eye patch on. I love it.
We'll give him another
Pu-
eye patch if he's
Push
not
him to the
careful.
camera. Oh man. Punched out a deer. Oh god.
All right.
That's amazing. So
So
that wraps up this
Love-
week's Sports Agents of Chaos Pick Challenge, to say the very least. High chance we get football this week. High chance the three of us actually do good. Will someone win 3 games in a week for the first time this season? Who knows? Will someone get a perfect week for the first time this season? Who knows? That could happen this week, guys. Like, it's a possibility. This is a real possibility. There's a real possibility. Long episode today, boys. What are we thinking here? Do we end it off here, or do we do our usual goodbye? Justin, we know you got to go soon, so it could be either or. It doesn't really affect us.
Either way, I gotta go, so it's up to you guys.
Rick,
You guys want to
I'll
keep
do them
going?
quickly. I
Don't-
got
don't
2.
let me
I got
stop
2.
you.
I'll do them quickly. I got 2. Just 2 this week because two was my third rant. So we already covered that. So
I mean,
that's
if Justin wants to exit stage,
for it.
right?
Go for it. I'm gonna start getting ready, but you go for it.
Rick,
I'll run them quick. Number 2, Jerk. I sent you the picture. I don't know if we transferred it. If you want to get it up and ready, CVS has taking the liberty of forgetting the month of November and putting up a row of Santa Clauses for their buying purchases. Guys, it's October 1st. Christmas isn't for 2 months. Like, calm your jets. That's not it. Wrong month, guys. Wrong month. And wrong month for everybody. All your Christmas commercials, all your jingles, stop. You're forgetting Columbus Day. You're forgetting my birthday. You're forgetting Thanksgiving. You're forgetting my birthday. You're forgetting Veterans Day. You're forgetting my birthday. Election Day, my birthday. You're forgetting the important holidays. Stop it. Just stop it. That's number 2. 1. I am calling out the United States men's national Saudi Arabia. I'm going to leave it at that. How are you drawing with Saudi Arabia? You're supposed to be a top 5 team, and you draw with the 3rd best team in the Asian Confederation, who's ranked number 56, who currently constantly gets slaughtered. There's the Santas. There they are.
Took a little bit.
And look at the end. The end, they're all in Hawaiian shirts. They're all in Hawaiian shirts. Really? Like, commerce as a whole, you're terrible. And U.S. men's national soccer team, get your stuff together, guys. You're gonna lose to Wales at this point.
You cut out Rick real quick. You cut out for me and some of the people. Can you just repeat what happened with the soccer team again?
They had a goalless draw with Saudi Arabia.
Woof.
After losing 2-0 to Japan.
Ooh.
Let me remind you of something. Your group includes England and Wales and a better than average Iran team, or Iran, however you want to pronounce it. You are going to lose to Wales at this point. Shout out to all you Welsh out there. I love you people. You're going to lose, and you're going to be an absolute disaster and disappointment. And 4 years from now, you're going to host the World Cup. Guess what? If this team doesn't improve, you ain't going to do anything. So get your stuff together. I get it. It's October. People get injured. Get your stuff together. You cannot look at the women's team. The women's team is crushing opponents. Why isn't the men's team on the same pathway? It makes no sense. It's the same sport, but with the same equipment. Get better. Get better. Or get out of my group. Wales and England, on to the next round. What a disaster for Greg Berhalter. Terrible. I was waiting for like a Taylor Twellman style rant, but I don't know. Taylor Twellman took the week off or whatever the case is. So, me. Duncan still sucks.
Duncan still sucks. Soda flavor still sucks, ladies and gentlemen. The Welsh are the best, and apparently men's soccer is failing too. Did I forget any of the usuals, Rick, or is that it?
Fight me, Adam Rank. You know where I am.
There we go.
Fight me.
There we go.
Yeah,
and on that note,
death, taxes, and Kevin Durant still unloyal.
Yeah, true. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, that ends this week's chaotic episode of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. Honestly, I don't think Rick, there were some staticky moments. You didn't your video didn't drop out this entire time. I think that's a W right there. Even if the NFL picks go rough this week, I think that in and of itself is a W. So, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this week of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. We had fun. We went serious. We did our picks. We did the whole shebang per usual. Check us out back next week. Every single time the goal is every single Saturday we are here. The Deer will eventually get his own setup back soon. He may have lost this week. Will he beat Justin again in the future? Who knows? Because on this podcast, we love to have fun, we love to talk football, and we love to cause just a little bit of chaos, Deer included. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and we will see you guys